For me, it began in 1992 with an ending. I was 5 years old and happened upon a comic shop advertising the death of Superman in its window display. From that moment forward, the Man of Steel has been my favorite character, and now on this podcast, I'm exploring my fandom and examining the creative visions that have shaped the last son of Krypton across media for over 80 years. Welcome to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato, and joining me to discuss ZACK SNYDER'S Justice League is my buddy, returning guest, comic book artist, V Ken Marion.
Yo, what's up, Anthony? Thanks again for having me. I'm excited to talk Justice League and Snyder Cut, and it's going to be a blast.
This is going to be epic, and if you'll indulge me for 2 seconds, I want to address our audience for a moment, and I just want to say that I don't care how many podcasts you've listened to about the Snyder Cut on how many podcast platforms. You've never listened to the two of us on Digging for Kryptonite in the spirit of Batfleck. So you and I have not talked since you watched it. I know you know that I loved it. I posted a little reaction video on social media the morning right after I finished watching. So you know that I loved it. All I know is that you watched it today. A few hours ago, you texted me that you had a lot of thoughts, and that's it. So I'm dying to know, my friend, what is the verdict?
Okay, can we swear in the show?
Go for it.
Okay, movie is fucking spectacular.
Right?
Loved it.
Right?
Yeah, so good. Yeah. We'll get into. I'm sure we're gonna break this down top to bottom, but first overall thoughts is way better than the theatrical cut. It's basically a different movie, like tonally, narratively, characters, everything's different for the better, everything for the better. And yeah, this movie was fucking amazing. And I think it's my favorite of the DCEU movies. But again, I literally I finished watching like an hour ago. So I'm like still on that high coming off of it. But yeah, I had a blast. And so yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, like more in depth.
I'm so glad. I had a feeling that you would. But I'm really glad. Yeah, there's so much that I want to say about it. I've really been looking forward to this opportunity to debrief with you. I'll be honest, man, there's some venting that I need to do, and I need a little podcast therapy because for the most part, I've seen a lot of great stuff, a lot of positivity online, but as always, there's going to be some negativity, and that's fine, right? And you and I have talked Snyder's movies before. We understand not everybody likes them. There have been a few arguments against it that I'm like baffled by.
Wait, really?
By.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Before you get into it, that surprises the hell out of me because I haven't seen a negative thing at all on social media or anything. Like people that have like hated the Snyder movies have said this movie's great. So that's why I'm shocked to hear that. So let's hear it.
And I've seen a lot of good stuff, and there are numerous instances of people like in my circle who, weren't so hot on his stuff in the past, and now they liked this, and that's wonderful to see. Well, actually, before I go further, let me just say this, a spoiler warning. We are assuming you have watched ZACK SNYDER'S Justice League. So there will be spoilers. If you haven't watched and you care about being spoiled, stop and go watch the movie or read a summary or whatever. So we're going to assume you've seen it. There will be spoilers. And again, we assume you've watched the movie. We're not going to give you a plot summary of a 4-hour movie. Like we're assuming everyone is coming in familiar with the movie. So fine, let's just get right into it. I guess I need to get this off my chest. That's fine.
Do it.
So... And these are people, some of my greatest friends, like a mutual friend of ours, Chris Wilcock. I'll give him a plug. Chris Wilcock, Undiscovered Realm, Addicted to Ink. If you have any tattoo needs or Funko Pop or gaming needs, Chris Wilcock is your guy, okay? But I saw him post on Facebook the other day. He hadn't even watched the movie yet. And basically the gist of his argument was like, well, like it's not right to compare the two cuts of the movie. Like, of course... Snyder's version is going to be better. It's twice as long. Like he has the duration to tell a better story. And I couldn't help myself. I had to comment. It's like there's so much that's better and stronger and more effective in this movie on a scene by scene basis. It's not like, yes, the added time is obviously a benefit. I would never deny that. But again, the benefits go so far beyond, like there's so many instances where this is an improvement, even separate from the running time. So there's that. There have been a few other things, I guess, that we can get into, but that was one that I keep seeing. The other one, this one I think I'm most baffled by. which is I've seen a few people say like, well, it's not really fair, basically, because Snyder has the benefit of hindsight, right? And he knows like what worked or didn't work in the movie that came out, and he had the ability to like change stuff now based on fan reaction. It's like, come on, really?
Well, he claims he never watched the theatrical one. Plus, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only reshoots on this movie were that end scene with the Joker, right? That like so all the stuff throughout the whole 4 hours was the original like most of the battle stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
what were you told? Yeah.
All he filmed was that nightmare sequence at the end, and they said one other pickup shot. I don't know where that went, but so that was it. Because I remember when they announced that he was doing additional photography, everyone was like, "Oh, now like he's going to add all this stuff." It's like he filmed one scene, like Jesus.
Yeah.
And also, yes, famously, he has maintained, and I believe him. Honestly, I believe him that he didn't watch Justice League, and like I don't know, from everything that we've heard about this, it seems like all this man was trying to do was restore his original intent.
Totally.
For this 100%. Movie. And so it's like, they're going into this, like, there's no way this guy was using any footage not shot by him. So like anything from the Whedon cut that's not in this movie is not because he heard people didn't like it. It's like, it's not in there because it's not his movie.
Yeah. No, as an artist, I can say that like, when you're at that point when you just want to get your point across, it's like, I'm not saying he didn't, I mean, like, obviously I don't know the guy at all personally, but like, as an artist, I would assume that he didn't watch the Joss version simply because he just didn't care. Like, not because he was angry. I mean, he probably was a little angry, but I mean, like, it was probably just one of those things where it's like, has nothing to do with me. I'm not putting myself through it. I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I would assume that's it, because that's how I would be if I was in that situation as an artist. But yeah, like I 100% believe it when they say that this is all his original stuff. And dude, tonally, this movie is so much better. And okay, this is another thing. When we talked, listeners will remember we talked about Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman in a previous episode. And one of the complaints I had about those movies was that there was some weird editing in those movies where I mentioned that like it felt like a scene ended abruptly and then a new scene started. Like scenes were cut really weirdly. And I didn't feel that at all in this. So that kind of proves to me that he's been dealing with like suit fuckery since the beginning. Like they've been chopping up his movie because this movie had none of that. And going back, thinking back about Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, they did feel like they cut off those like the connective tissue between scenes just to like fit it into a runtime, you know? I mean, I don't really think you could put a 4-hour movie in theaters. Like, I mean, I will say we had to pause it multiple times for like bathroom breaks and stuff. So maybe his strength going forward would be just doing like either like long movies for streaming services like this, or like almost like mini series, you know, like British style, like 3-episode, hour-and-a-half kind of things. Like, who knows? But like this movie benefited 100% from like letting him just let things breathe, get all the characters in there, all the story build up, all the little pieces that fit together to make this the narrative cohesive and coherent. Like all of that was in there. And like he is like a true like artistic visionary when it comes to this stuff. Like this movie looked nothing like a Marvel movie. Like his stuff is so singular to like just visually to what he does, is that it's a shame that we're not going to get another Justice League movie from him, you know? Well, I mean, fingers crossed we do. Like, hopefully this makes enough waves that we get part 2, you know?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I appreciate you allowing me to get my vent. I was going to save my venting. I really was, but I'm glad we got it out of the way now. Again, I'm not saying everyone has to love this, but it's just like some of these arguments. I just feel like, unless, and I really tried to be fair and really think about like, if hypothetically, like, let's say I were so offended, like by Snyder's take on these characters, like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I would be like that online. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't, but maybe I would, if I really felt like so wronged by what he was doing. But again, just like some of these arguments, and from people I love in my group, it's just like, I don't know. I don't really get it, but whatever.
I mean, I can say for myself, I wouldn't. If something like just I didn't like or made me so mad, I just wouldn't watch it and kind of like move on with my life. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really get the hate per se either.
Yeah. Well, that's when I posted my little reaction video the other morning. I said, I was like, if you don't like Snyder's work, it's like you should just do something else today. It's all right.
Yeah.
Like it's really fine. But anyway, all right. That we took care of that. Honestly, I mean, I think this episode is going to be a celebration because I'm still riding high. I mean, I watched this. So I guess we can talk about our viewing experiences because I stuck with my plan. I had shared this with you at some point, either on or off mic, but I stuck with my plan. I slept for a few hours before the movie dropped at 3 a.m. Wednesday night into Thursday morning. I didn't sleep as long as I had anticipated because we put our son down for bed at 7 and I was going to sleep from like 7 to 2 or 2:30. But then I got a workout in from 6 to 7 and then I had to eat after and I couldn't sleep right away. So I ended up staying up a little bit longer, but I got a few hours and I woke up around 2 or so and I had gotten a venti cold brew from Starbucks earlier in the day and fridged it. And I immediately went to that and then I woke me up and I watched Colbert's monologue and I was like, waking up and getting in the mindset. And as soon as that clock turned 3 a.m., I was in HBO Max. It wasn't there instantly, and I was like, all right, it's okay. So I went out of HBO Max. I went back in. It was there, and I pressed play. And initially, when normally starts playing, right, like you see the time code. You see 0 minutes, and then you see the full runtime. But it had 0 and 0 on both ends, and I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, this is a disaster. Something didn't load right. It's not going to play. But then very quickly, I saw the full runtime appear, and I was like, all right, we're good. And the little DC animation that rolls at the beginning, like with all the characters, it was a little choppy. It was like buffering. And I said, oh, no. I was like, everyone across the world is watching this right now, and this thing is not going to play right. But once that little intro thing was done, it was fine. And my wife was asleep and obviously our son was asleep and it was just me. And I will rewatch it with Steph whenever she wants. And we will probably do that sooner rather than later. But it was just me in those early morning hours from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I took a break pretty much every hour, like bathroom break, get another drink, replenish snacks, stretch my legs. But we're talking like a minute or two. So, I mean, I really went pretty much straight through. And, like, I had so much expectation and excitement going into it. And I was nervous. I was like, how could it possibly live up to what everyone has built it up to be, what I've built it up to be? But I tell you, man, in those early morning hours, like that solitary experience of just immersing myself in it, I loved it. I mean, it was really one of those movie watching experiences. I think it's a very small group of those that I've had where it's like such a magical experience of watching it. And I loved it. And man, it did not feel like 4 hours. I mean, yes, I needed bathroom breaks, but I was, each time I saw the next chapter title come on screen, I was like, oh no, it's like I'm closer to the end. Like
it's going fast. Yeah.
I thought it was, for a 4-hour movie, I thought it was paced so well. It didn't feel like 4 hours. And that's why I did that video, that little 2-minute video that I put on social media. I was like, I just wanted to capture it.
It was funny because you looked tired in that video and I knew your plan. And I was like, God bless him. God bless him for getting up at 2 a.m. and getting this done.
Here's the thing. It's primarily a function of, like my wife and I are both working from home and we have our son who's under 2. And it's like,
yeah,
and Steph is exceedingly, accommodating and supportive. But for me to be like, hey, I need 4 hours during the day to watch this, it's like, that's pushing it a little bit. And, and I didn't want to wait. Like, I didn't want to wait until the next night. Like, I had to watch it. So what's weird though is that normally, as you know, I'm up super late. So this was actually weird for me. I didn't know if I was up early or up late. Really, the lines really blurred on that. But anyway, that was my experience. It was really something special. What was it like? So you had to wait a few days and then you and your fiance watched it today?
Yeah. So I was assuming that because I'm to dial it back. I've always wanted to see the Snyder Cut, but I was never banging the drum hard for it, mainly because I didn't think it existed in a finished state. Like I knew it existed, but I assumed there had, and rightly so, tons of CG had to be done, and it would have been really expensive to get finished. And I just never foresaw a world in which WB would release it. You know what I mean? So I had always wanted to see it, but I was never like frothing at the mouth kind of thing, right? And even once it was announced, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be fun to see. But I kind of like moved on, you know, from the Snyderverse and everything, because it was just like, yeah, I like those movies, but yeah, it'll be fun to see when it comes out. Cut to like this past week, and like I don't know if you listen to Rob Liefeld's podcast, but he did an episode about it, and he was like hyping it big time. He was like, this movie's so, because he saw it a little bit early, and he was just hyped, like, this movie's great, it's amazing. And I'm like, oh man, I'm getting excited now. And then like I told you that I was like more excited to talk to you with you about than actually watch the movie. But like this week I started getting like really pumped for it. And then I saw your video, and then I was like, oh man, I can't wait. And then like I just the anticipation, like it felt like Christmas morning kind of thing, right? And then I just had so much work to do this week that we couldn't line it up. And like on Friday night, I thought maybe we might be able to watch it, but then like work kind of pushed it back. And then Saturday got all shots out. So every day, like I thought I was going to be able to watch it, and I didn't. And then so it just kind of came till today, which was our original plan. But dude, I was like amped. Like this morning, I woke up so friggin' early because I was like just couldn't wait. Like I got up at like 7 a.m, like without an alarm or anything. You know, just kind of just like I can't wait. Like so Sunday morning, everyone just like like don't usually wake up that early. But like yeah, dude, we started watching on like in the afternoonish, like after lunch, and made a bunch of popcorn, try to replicate the movie theater experience as much as possible. And I will say that I don't think it felt long watching it, but like whenever I'd get up to go to the bathroom or like get up to stretch, like my body could tell it was like a long movie. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're done and you're like achy and everything, when you stand up from sitting so long, like it did feel that way, but like actually in the narrative of it, like it went by really quick. So it was paced super well. So well.
And what did Laura think?
She loved it. Yeah. She really liked it. Yeah. She was she was pretty much in the same boat as me, like looking forward to it, but not like over the moon, like banging the drum online and stuff, you know, just kind of like, oh yeah, it'll be cool to watch when it comes out. And she loves Wonder Woman. So she like loved how Wonder Woman was portrayed in this. Like, so it was, yeah, dude, every character, every single one was done dirty by the theatrical cut. Like every single one was like elevated so much in this one. Yeah.
For sure. And just picking up on one thing that you said, no, I know that you were skeptical about this. I have the text exchanges where I'm like, I think we're going to get the Snyder cut. And you're like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't think so.
I just didn't see it. Like, I mean, this was before the HBO Max thing and pandemic kind of hit, you know? So this is like, I think all that kind of facilitated them seeing the need to dump money into like finishing it, you know? But I was just thinking like, it would basically like be like them being like, oh, we messed up, and here's like the better version. And I'm so grateful and thankful that they did it, because this movie is so good, and this like to me should be the Justice League that going forward in time, like this is the one I'm going to show my kids. You know, when we watch these movies, like, yeah, I'm not even going to touch the theatrical one.
You know, a few months ago, you and I, and you had mentioned this, you know, you and I podcasted about Snyder's work. We talked about Man of Steel and BVS. And then we did a Patreon bonus episode on Justice League. And I said it then, and it's confirmed now. That's the last time I watched that movie ever. That's it.
Yeah, totally.
And I know Snyder has said in interviews, like, you know, WB has told him, like, they still consider Justice League canon. And this is like a little Elseworlds thing. And it's like, you know, whatever. The movie is what it is. But it's like, really? There were so many things watching this where it's like, why would you think we wouldn't want this? Like, Darkseid, in all his glory on screen, and it's like, why?
And dude, it was amazing. Dude, Steppenwolf, okay? Talking about the character, like, he was one of the characters who was wildly underserved by the theatrical version. He was so cool in this. Like, he looked cool. I remember we were talking that because he was a CG character in the theatrical cut, you thought he looked too video gamey. In this, he looked good. Yeah. Like, he looked cool. And not only did he look cool, but like he had like goals and motivations and personality and like drive and like objectives and like believable, like not human, but like believable being emotion to like drive the character of why he's doing what he's doing. He just wasn't some like faceless guy being like for darkness and like just killing people for no reason. Like, it was like it explained like how he was like Darkseid's servant. He was exiled and like trying to get back in his good grade. Like, all that was so well done, and he looked so cool. The armor like was all. Did you notice the armor was always kind of like flickering, like it was alive? Like, that was such a cool touch, you know.
So that's a perfect place to really start with the Steppenwolf. And this is a beautiful example of exactly what I was saying before. Like, you know, Steppenwolf's not better because the movie's longer and he has more scenes. Like, he's better because he went from a paper-thin, one-dimensional plot device to a fully fleshed out character who, you know, when I watched the theatrical cut, like every time this guy was on screen, it's like, oh my God, what, you know, like when are we getting back to the Justice League? In this version, it's like, man, I was on board with Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Like, exactly like you said. I mean, the design was so much more menacing. He was brutal. I think this was an instance where like the R rating worked.
Help.
Because when he's tearing through like Themyscira and Atlantis, it's like, whoa, okay. Like you
the blood splurting everywhere. Yeah.
You need that. Like it really sold like this guy is a threat. And yeah, the fact that he's not just going on about mother and the like all that stuff. It's like, no, like he was trying to redeem himself in the eyes of Darkseid, and like there was tension there. It was like,
and Desaad, dude, his interactions with Desaad, great.
Yeah.
Like, all of that added so much. And like the stuff with Desaad and Darkseid, like it wasn't like a ton of screen time either. It like they were maybe on screen, like all of them, like aside from Steppenwolf, the rest of the Fourth World characters, maybe on screen for like 8 minutes, maybe if that, right? But like they hit and resonated emotionally so well that like it just added this like weight to the movie that like why anyone thought that was a good idea to cut that out like makes no sense. Like,
so what I think happened is that and you know it's pretty clear now, right, from watching this movie and everything Snyder has said in interviews, right, his plan to, you know, obviously Darkseid would continue to be the threat moving forward in the next two movies, and we would move into the nightmare world and all that stuff. And so I think when Warner Brothers decided like we're not sticking with Snyder's vision, I think they just wanted to kind of like close all of that off, and in so doing, they were like, okay, well, so cut all the Darkseid stuff. Steppenwolf is the villain, and just kind of leave it at that. And then at the end of Justice League, they tease Injustice League, right? So I think that was the motivation, but like it's again a baffling choice, and it was great to see Darkseid, you know, in there. It was awesome. It was amazing. But yeah, Steppenwolf, like I was so surprised at how much this version of the movie like completely changed my perspective on him as the villain.
Totally. Yeah, it's nuts. Like, yeah.
Can we also can we talk about the music?
Oh, dude. Oh my God. The music. The music in this was amazing. Is Junkie XL, right? Tom, what's his real name? Tom Holkenberg?
Yeah.
Or some, is that it, right? Yeah. I always know him as Junkie XL, but I noticed he wasn't credited as that in this. He was credited by his like real name. So
yeah.
But dude, so much better. Perfect example of how, like, I mean, dude, anytime that Superman was on screen, I'm sure we'll go character by character, but just like using that like Hans Zimmer score for Superman, dude, that is the best Superman music. I think it's better than the John Williams score. I feel like it has more weight to it, and like it felt truly mythic and stuff. Like when Superman showed up when they're using that. And another part that really stood out to me was that in the theatrical one, the Justice League, as you've been calling it, or as the internet's been calling it, the first scene with Wonder Woman where she's fighting the terrorists, right? In the Justice League version, I thought that was a Joss like shot because of the score and the lighting and like the color correction that they did on it, right? In this version, by changing the color correction and then changing the score, that scene felt so badass and like important and mythic, and like the pacing, like, dude, the music elevated it so much. Like, well, what are your thoughts on the music?
I agree. And it's funny because you and I are 100% on the same page. That's the exact scene I was going to mention. I think if you want to compare, I mean, and there were so many instances of this in the movie, but I think if you wanted to pick one, especially one that's early on in the movie, that so clearly illustrates the difference that music can make, you put that London hostage scene side by side, the two music scores, night and day. Because you watch with the Danny Elfman score in the theatrical cut, it's like, I don't know, it's very light, and it's
circus music, kind of like,
almost
yeah,
exactly. And then you watch this, and it's ominous and it's foreboding, and it creates an atmosphere of tension. And it's just like, what a difference. So, I mean, the music, I was just gorgeous. I was so happy that he was able to come back, and this guy banged out 4 hours of music. I mean, you know, it was like, it was really impressive. And yeah, so that, I mean, I really, really loved. And, you know, to your point, it's true. It's like even footage of Snyder's that made it into the theatrical cut, like, I think there was very little that was left alone. Like, even if it was the color correction or, you know, like throwing little lines in here and there, it's like there was very little that we got to see in its, you know, pure form until now.
Oh, no, there was none of it. I mean, I was looking really hard when I was watching it, and I think whether it be the color correction, the music, or like they would chop up the editing and like insert like a joke or something. Like, there was so much of that throughout the Joss version, where in this version, the whole thing just felt so much more serious. And dude, every time we talk about the Man of Steel theme, but Wonder Woman's theme too, like that, like it would start with like a low hum and then kind of kick into that, you know, oh dude, so good. So good.
And the voices, the singing in her, I'm not describing it well, but the voices that you hear during her theme, it's like, you know, that riff, you know, that classic, now iconic Wonder Woman riff, like, you know, wonderful, no pun intended, but like to add that other layer to it, I mean, really gave her a distinct theme in this.
It made every time she showed up seem like tough and epic. Like when she was fighting those bank robbers, right? Like she had a whole prolonged scene where she was using the gauntlets to like in the theatrical one, it was just when he used the machine gun, but that was like the end of this like huge fight scene that she had, you know, like it was sick, dude. It was, and all the slow motion and like all like the dodging and like yeah, it was great. So good.
Yeah. On that note though, of the jokes that were added in, you know, one example that really stood out to me was the recruitment scene between Bruce and Arthur, where after they leave the tavern, right, and they're walking along the water there, and you know, Aquaman has that line about a strong man is strongest alone. And of course, in the theatrical cut, then we get Batman quipping like that's not the saying. That's the opposite of the saying, right? But in this version, it's like he starts talking about Superman and, you know, the fact that Superman died by his side, and it's just like this completely different weight to it. You know?
Or dude, even the scene when he's in the bar talking to Aquaman, and he goes, "Arthur Curry, I hear you can talk to fish." Like that was in that was not, everything felt like that was not in this Justice. That was not in the Zack version. Like the Zack version, everything. That's what I'm saying. Like, there was no scene that was like unmessed with. Like it was like they either did like weird little inserts like that, or like it just didn't have the same weight and gravity to it, you know?
Yeah. And even just the aspect ratio. I mean, if you really want to get technical, literally everything, like there's nothing that was the same, because he went with this. Wow. And I know people complained about that, but I was fine with this, you know, the square aspect ratio, because it really gave like such a, you know, a wider, and I know he designed it more for like IMAX when it's on that like really tall screen. But I thought it worked well. And I don't know, like on a, you know, like on a large enough flat screen TV, it's like, yeah, all right, you have the bars on the side, but it's not, I don't know. I know people were like upset about that, but I don't know. I thought it was cool, and it worked well. And that's, you know, it's like, that's how he wanted to present his movie. It's like, you know, part of me is like, get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Once you start watching it, you don't notice anyway. You just kind of like get sucked into it, you know?
But that, right? Like it pulls you in. I mean, Bruce doesn't wear the costume until the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, dude, Flash doesn't show up until like an hour and a half into the movie. Like crazy. Like they don't even show him until an hour and a half into the movie. It's nuts. Like how like and Superman's probably 3 hours maybe until he shows up. Well, I mean, he has the first scene. He has the very first scene with the scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we can talk. I remember we were talking about about the scream, and when you were describing it to me, I said that sounds really stupid. But like in the movie, because the way you described it to me, it was like his scream would like echo across the universe, but that's not what happened. It echoed across the planet, and that ignited the mother box. So I was totally down with it. I was so like down. I was like, this is good. This makes sense. It works. It explains why like they never came back like before Superman was there, like in like the 40s or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it explains why the mother boxes were never activated. It was really well thought out and really well done.
Look, I was working on limited information. I didn't have all the details, but I just, again, and I don't even know if this was speculation or, you know, from someone who posted online, having seen some of his original footage. I don't even know at this point, but yeah, that idea of I think the thing that had stood out to me that I liked about it, and I think it worked really well in this, is just like Batman v Superman showed us, the battle for Metropolis from Man of Steel, but now from a different perspective. We got a similar thing here where we see Superman's death, but now the effect that it has in waking up the mother boxes. And yes, I agree. Waking up the mother boxes on planet Earth rather than reverberating across the universe makes more sense.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know exactly what how it would play out, but yeah, I thought that was so great. But yeah, like there was just so much going on and so many characters to serve, and I think he served them all so well. All of the character arcs were so fully realized. And you're right. There's no one who wasn't done dirty by the theatrical cut.
Do you want to run down all of them, like character by character?
Sure. Let me just say this, though, just like a global thing, because I don't want to forget. What really stood out to me about this, watching this version of the movie, and it was, the movie overall was epic and it was emotional. And the thing that really stood out to me that was so clear in this version was, this theme of parents and children and loss. And, you see how it plays out in so many circumstances in the parallels. Like, Barry and his father, there's a physical distance between them. They have a great relationship, but they're like literally divided versus, Victor and his father who, are in the same room together, but there's that emotional space between them. And, you see so many instances of this theme of parents and children. And I have to imagine, it for Snyder in particular, after everything that he went through losing, his daughter, I think that, that just hits in an even more profound way. But that theme to me just was so much clearer in this, and everyone's arc, again, just had so much more weight and landed, I thought, in a really impactful way. But yeah, I'm happy to go through. Should we talk about Superman first, or do you want to save him?
Do you want to save him for the end, or do you want to start with him? I'll leave that up to you. It's your show.
It's a Superman show, so maybe we should talk about Superman.
Okay, let's kick off with Superman. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I did text you. I was like, listen, this is not a spoiler, but I just want you to know, like, it's not. He doesn't have a ton more screen time, but what we get is a lot better. Because that was, if I had one disappointment, and this was my own expectation. For whatever reason, I thought like we would get a little bit more with Clark, and that wasn't the case. But again, what we did get was a lot stronger, and this is really a testament to the movie that I was so invested in the other characters that ultimately, that was not a major disappointment. And I recognize he had a specific role to fill. This was not Man of Steel 2. I would have loved that. But this wasn't Man of Steel 2, and I appreciated that. And there were a lot of other characters to serve, and he had a specific role to fill. So, again, that took me a second, and especially as the hours were we're moving along there. I was like, oh, okay, like we're probably not going to get that much more with him. But yeah, what was your take on Superman in this?
Okay, dude, I friggin' love Henry Cavill as Superman. I really hope he gets another movie, either another Justice League movie or another Superman solo movie. Any more with him? He was so good in this, and again, his, like we were saying about everything else, his whole arc felt like there was so much more weight and realism and importance to it, and it wasn't corny at all. And dude, the black suit, so rad. Like that black suit looks so good on screen. Like dude, when they're all staying together and he's in that black suit with the silver S, dude, I was like, this is money. Like this is such a good, like I wish we could get another movie with like that black suit, having like another prolonged like part in it. Like looked awesome. Yeah. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever seen a more badass Superman action scene on screen than that when he enters the fight against Steppenwolf?
Dude, when he blocks the axe, dude, I audibly cheered. I was like, yes!
That was so that's what I wanted to say, and I wanted to talk to you about this. Okay, so as we discussed previously with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, like I found both of those movies, but especially Man of Steel, like really emotional, especially when I rewatched them for our podcast. And so coming into this, I guess I was, I guess I was expecting for there to be, like really emotionally resonant scenes with Clark that really moved me. And there were a couple of things, but if you had told me that my favorite Superman part in this movie would be the action scene, I would have been like, I don't know. I but I was so blown away when he shows up and,
so good.
and blocks the axe and just looks over, not impressed, and freezes it doesn't even exert any effort to just let out that little bit of super breath and kicks. He kicks Steppenwolf.
He does like a karate kick. Yeah, he does. It's not. Yeah, dude. And I love how when he blocked the axe, it wasn't even like he like caught it. It was like he just kind of like stood there and he let it hit his shoulder. It was like, and he was just like standing there like nonchalantly, like, dude, so good. And in the black suit, dude, it was money. Like it was so good.
And it's like, oh my God, so many things I loved about it. But like in the theatrical cut, he obviously he helps turn the tide in the battle against Steppenwolf, but he still gets knocked around a lot, right? What I loved about this was it's like, no, like he showed up and he didn't let up and he just beat the shit out of Steppenwolf.
No, yeah, and it was like he was kicking the shit out and he like got him on the ground and like kept punching him and then like lit up the eyes and his heat vision down and cut his ear horn off. Like that was so sick. Like, dude, it was awesome. It was like everything I wanted in the Superman movie. I mean, I know I've said that about Man of Steel, but like this was like in an ensemble cast, it was so dope. Dude, in the theatrical cut, he says some corny shit. Like when he first shows up and he's like, I like truth, but also justice. Like, and when him and Cyborg separate the boxes in the theatrical version, he's like, I wish I was dead. Remember like when he was like talking about the feedback? So much like corny shit they had him saying that. In this, there was none of that. He came off as like cool, in control, badass, confident, all that stuff you want Superman to be. Like it was great. Like and it just felt like cool. Like everything about him just like oozed cool,
Exactly. And, in the theater, and I mean, again, I think you can't help but compare the two. It's like when he shows up in the theatrical cut, yes, he has that corny line about truth and justice, and Danny Elfman works in, some notes of the John Williams score, and it just, to me, represents just a step backwards, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with this, he shows up in the black costume as badass as you've ever seen him with that Junkie XL score, and it's like, whoa, like this is what you want to see.
Yeah, and that when he started kicking the shit out of Steppenwolf, that's when they threw in the Man of Steel, like the Hans Zimmer like undertones in there too. Oh, dude, it was so good. Yeah.
It was great, and it's like the scene before when he shows up at where Alfred is working, and he lands, and it's just a short scene, but he's calm, and there's a little smile there, so it's like you get that side of him too, and then you get the warrior, and it's like I just feel like it's such a perfect balance, and it's like you want to see those different sides of the character. It's like again, I know people don't like the angrier or dour Superman, and I genuinely don't think that's what Snyder gave us in the other movies, although I know people feel otherwise. But it's like you look at it here and it's like, oh, you get to see all the sides of this character, and it's like, yeah, don't get on his bad side because he'll kick the crap out of you, like literally.
He's Superman, yeah.
He's Superman.
Like, literally.
Oh man, I love that scene. I loved it so much.
Also, Henry Cavill made me like really want to like start lifting like heavier weights too. Like he's insane looking, dude. His back is like insane looking. Like it's crazy.
That's why, look, when we talked about Superman and Lois, the TV show, and this is not to knock Tyler Hoechlin, right? But it's like you look at the two and it's like,
I mean, like,
Henry Cavill is quite the special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but he's like, Henry Cavill's like, I don't know if he still looks like that, but for that movie, dude, he looked insane. Like,
yeah. So, so as far as the Superman of it all, I definitely noticed we got more references to Superman throughout the movie that you didn't have previously, and I thought that was nice. I will say I was a little surprised, a little disappointed. If there was one thing, I thought Lois was going to have a little more to do in this version of the movie.
So I don't love Amy Adams as Lois, and like I wasn't perturbed at all that she wasn't, because I don't think she, like, I like the one on the Superman and Lois a lot more. The actress on Superman and Lois. I don't know. I feel like she doesn't have a lot of good chemistry or something. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but like, maybe it's just because they don't give her a lot of great stuff to do. I don't know, but
yeah.
I wasn't that like miffed by it because I thought what she did was really important for Superman, like for the like narrative of him coming back, and like she's not one of the superheroes, so like I'd rather that time beyond like, you know, Wonder Woman or Aquaman or Cyborg or whatever. So, but yeah, it wasn't like, I wasn't that miffed by it, but.
Yeah, and in fairness, I think this kind of goes to what I was saying before, where it's like, again, it was a little hard for me to not want this to be a Superman movie. You know what I mean? But it's like, yes, when I recognize that, just like Clark, she's, she has a different role to fulfill in this, and so that's fine. And I mean, she's pregnant. Yeah,
okay, yeah, I want to bring that up. Yeah, because they lingered on that pregnancy test, and I was like, are they implying that she's pregnant? Like, yeah, so that's crazy. Oh, dude, the scene with her and Martha, their reuniting scene, way better in this one too. You know what I mean? Instead of being at the Daily Planet when she calls her thirsty.
I know.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, go.
No, but like going back to the pregnancy thing, like, do you think that the plan was for him to have a kid going forward?
So yes. So Snyder's talked about this in interviews. And so his plan was that, well, I mean, I guess how much have you followed of what he shared about his plans?
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
So I don't know how you're going to feel about this. The original plan that he moved away from, because the studio, I think, really pushed back, and this never made it to filming, but the earliest plan that he had, and I'll be honest, this is one rare instance where I'm actually kind of grateful for studio interference, is that his plan was for Lois and Bruce to have a romantic relationship while Clark is dead, and for Bruce to father her child in the future. So, I mean, I think for Bruce, it would have, I mean, and for both of them, or actually for all of them, I mean, it would have been interesting and caused a lot of drama, but I'm ultimately glad they didn't go in that direction. But so he pivoted to this where, yes, the intent was that she is pregnant, and then
she's pregnant with Superman's
with Clark. Yeah.
Okay.
So, the whole Bruce relationship, that was just completely abandoned. But so Snyder's plan was that in the next movie, in his next Justice League movie, Darkseid kills the pregnant Lois because Bruce is unable to protect her. So that's why Clark hates Bruce so much in those nightmare sequences. And in despair over Lois's death, Clark succumbs to the anti-life equation and falls under Darkseid's. And you see that, right, in those flashes of the future, that we get a couple of those throughout the movie. So that would have been the next movie, that Lois is killed, Clark succumbs to anti-life, we enter this nightmare world, and then I guess in that second movie or at the beginning of the third movie, Barry goes back in time and they're able to save Lois. And then in the final Justice League movie, the culmination of Snyder's 5-movie arc, it would basically be like the return of the Age of Heroes that we got in the history lesson in this movie, where just like in the past, like all the armies of the world came together. It would be a similar thing here in this final movie, where you'd have Atlantis and Themyscira and the United States military and the Green Lantern Corps and the Justice League, like everyone fighting back against Darkseid. That was his overall vision. And Bruce would sacrifice himself. And this is kind of out there, but Lois and Clark's kid would become the next Batman in the future. That was Snyder's master arc.
That sounds awesome. Like, right? I think that sounds friggin' awesome, and I hope that this movie does well enough for HBO Max that HBO Max is like, we're paying you to finish this out, because like that sounds fantastic, and like that's what I want to see.
And you know what? I think we're going to see. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think we're going to see maybe not, all of that fully realized, but I would be surprised if this is the end of the road for the Snyderverse. I'd be really surprised because, and again, like I know, you're on Twitter. This movie's been trending for days. Like stuff doesn't trend that long. I mean, it's just like, it's not letting up. And I think the response has been really strong and the traffic's been high. And I mean, well, I guess ultimately what'll be the deciding factor is like how many new people signed up for HBO Max. I think that's like the main metric, which is understandable, right? They want to grow their streaming platform, but like, I don't know.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, there you go.
This morning,
there you go. Yeah. I mean, look, I was always gonna, but this definitely, was an added benefit. But like, in success, anything is possible. And so it's like if they have this monster hit on their hands and they have an opportunity to make money, it's like, I mean, unless there's like a personal grudge, someone like hates Snyder so much that they're like, no. It's like, why
Or
would
he might not want, he might not want to do it either. That's the other thing. He might just be like, I'm done kind of thing. That could be,
maybe,
the other person.
Can I, so this was one of the other criticisms that I saw people posting about that he didn't wrap everything up. Now, some people were saying, oh, he ends it on a cliffhanger. I don't really consider it a cliffhanger. It's like there are threads to be continued, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, no, that's badass. It's like he's ending this the way he originally wanted to.
I agree.
I
agree.
I
yeah.
like
And it wasn't a true cliffhanger either, because like they do, but like it was like set up for, the next sequels. I mean, we can get into that more toward the end, but I want to keep running through the characters, because who's the next character? Cyborg. I mean, he's the one who like most notably got a huge upgrade from this movie. Like, right? Like, completely different.
Yeah. And I know Ray Fisher has been, extremely vocal about, the mistreatment that he's alleged. And if even aside from that, just creatively, it's like, yeah, you get why this guy was upset. I mean, I think he was done the worst out of everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What'd you think of his stuff in this?
Oh, he was awesome. Yeah, dude, seeing him as like, just like the football player, but then also as like a tech nerd, like putting that in there too, that he was like a hacker, like he like hacked to get his friend's grades up. Remember in the, like, so it alleged that he was like also like into like the tech world before like he was like interfaced with the machines. Great. And like his whole, like the whole story with his dad, and like how his dad sacrifices himself to save like everyone, like, dude, he's so good. Like, and all the stuff with his mom too, because you really get like why he's mad at his dad, because like his mom got killed. Like, dude, so much weight was put into it, and he really brought it, like in terms of like acting and stuff. Like he really like sold it. He did a great job. Like, and he had no corny jokes or anything. All the corny crap with him that was in the theatrical version wasn't there. Like it was solid, man. Totally solid.
Yeah. No, I know. Getting to see that backstory, getting to see him on the football field, getting more of the family dynamic, the tension with his father. I also thought visually, there are a few visual aspects to this that I'm especially curious to get your take on, but I thought the way that they represented his powers, like when he's entering the digital world, I thought that was so cool.
That was really cool. Yeah. How, cause he's like seeing, like, he's like stepping into it and like seeing like a physical manifestation, like the money that like in that woman's bank account, he like pulls it up. Like he like does like to pull it up to make more money. Such a cool, like visual representation of that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That was really, really strong. And, again, just getting to the end of the movie and, when he enters the unity, right, to separate the mother boxes, and they take the form of himself and his parents, and just that moment where they say, you don't have to be broken, you don't have to be alone. And he's like, I'm not broken and I'm not alone. Like, it was such a strong moment for the character. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that was one instance, night and day. And I mean, his father dies in this cut. I mean, there's like so much stuff, and we get all that stuff with Ryan Choi, who,
he was definitely done the most dirty, because he, in the theatrical version, he's like a cipher of a character, right? Like he's like almost not even like a main character. He's just kind of like the tech guy, Right. In this one, he's like a very cool, like brooding, standoffish character that like learns to accept like friends and teamwork by the end of it. And like you said, like I'm not alone, I'm not broken. Like it was super powerful. I teared up a little bit when I was watching it. Like it was such a good like representation of that character archetype. Yeah, sorry, character archetype. And like, yeah, dude, it was done so well. Like, and visually, like just the fact that his helmet, like he's got the helmet, he had the rockets, like all that stuff that wasn't in the theatrical cut. Like just the fact he could fly, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Let's take a quick commercial break and then we'll continue. And I think I want to talk about Flash next, because I know he was a character. Yeah. All right. I know I've been dying to get your thoughts on Flash. So let's take just a quick commercial break, and then we'll continue with our character breakdown. There are a few more Superman things, but I think that's good because we can kind of circle back to Superman and talk about him again. So so we will be right back. Movie lovers should check out this family of film festivals: the Brightside Tavern Film Festival in Jersey City, the Hang On to Your Shorts Film Festival in Asbury Park, and the Point Lookout Film Festival on Long Island. Submission information for filmmakers, as well as details about the festivals generally, can be found at filmfreeway.com. Also, be sure to listen to the podcasts hosted by the festival's organizer, CJ Cullen. You can find the official Hang On to Your Shorts podcast, as well as the Cullen on Film podcast, via a shared universe network. The Hive Comics and Games is an oasis of nerd fun and events in the heart of Odessa, Texas. Whether it's comic book superhero stories or role-playing in a dungeon, the Hive is where to be. Come tap your mana and face off against the top Magic the Gathering players in West Texas. Hive carries a majority of new comic titles each Wednesday and has all of your favorite titles in their back issue section. Follow them on Facebook at The Hive Comics and on Instagram at The Hive Comic Shop. All right, and we're back. All right, man, talk to me about Barry Allen.
Okay, dude. So next to Cyborg, he was the character done the most dirty. Like Cyborg was first, he like because they just like cropped out like whole storyline for him. But Flash, like they just straight changed his personality in the theatrical cut. Like, dude, this version of him, he's still like funny, but he doesn't like he's not ineffectual and he's not like scared of his own shadow and like, you know, and he's not he's competent in this one. He's like a competent hero already, you know? And like, dude, like the fact I'm so happy that scene where he's like, you're all excited to do battle, but I've never done battle. I just kind of push people and run away. And Batman's like, I'm so glad that wasn't in this. Like he was like from the get-go, he was like, oh yeah, we got to fight these guys. That's the bad guy. Like it was like so much of a different type. Like he wasn't like the hey kid sidekick who's in over your head. Like that wasn't him at all. Like, and I'm so happy that they changed that.
Yeah. I'm with you.
It's so good.
I basically had the same thought. Like, you know, what I thought Snyder walked a great line with him because he was still a source of comic relief, but in a more organic way and without sacrificing the character, right? Because I had the same thought. It's like, you know, yeah, he's still like quirky, right? And he's, you know, and there's still some humor from that, but at the same time, like I had the exact same thought that he's still competent. Like you see the scientific mind, like always at work. You know, it's not that doubt that we saw in the regular cut.
Like when they're in the Batcave or the Bruce Wayne's like hangar, and Cyborg puts that like little thing, the hologram of Superman. They're discussing how to bring him back to life. In the theatrical version, Flash is like, "Oh, I don't know if we can do this. Can we do this? Oh, that's a bad idea." Oh, like that. But in this, he was actually like the one facilitating the science behind how it would work, and like, "Oh, well, we could try this, and we could try it." You know what I mean? Like, he was much smarter and much more competent, and like physically as a superhero, he like actually fought people and like saved people. Like, dude, the Iris scene at the beginning was great. Like, wasn't that awesome? Like, because like it also added more to like his character too, because you saw him as a normal person like interact, like trying to get a job. Like that was humorous, but it wasn't like stupid, you know? It was like it added like character depth, you know?
Yeah, I thought visually that was great. Man, the thing with the hot dog really just made me laugh when he's saving her and he like grabs the hot dog. I don't know. And it was great.
I thought he was grabbing the hot dog because he was like burning calories, like because he was like hungry. But then like then like they end the joke with him like giving the dogs the hot, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just always carry around food, you know, in case the crazy happens." Like,
yeah, I thought the same thing. I really thought he was going to eat it. I really thought that's where they were going with that. But it was such a cool scene visually. I agree that it was, because otherwise it's like you only see him with his dad, you know, visiting his dad in prison, and then in the context of the Justice League. So I think to see him in one other situation, you know, was helpful. It was great to see Iris. I mean, it would have been nice if she spoke
had a little more,
more lines and more of interaction, but I'm glad she was at least in there. It's like, that's the thing. It's like Ryan Choi and Iris West and like characters just gone.
You know? I liked how like when he like turned to save her, his shoes like ripped apart. I thought that was like a cool little visual thing there. Yeah, for sure. That was awesome. Yeah, and I thought she was great as Iris. Like I thought I'm excited to see her play Iris in the movie, the Flash movie, if it ever comes about, you know. But yeah, dude, it was great. There was something else with Flash that dude, the fact that he like basically saves the day at the end by like going back in time. Dude, so good. That's a good use of the time travel as opposed to like spinning around the world. Like,
Yes.
I love that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like he just reverses. Yeah, perfect. Like that works.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I thought that was,
and,
I thought that was great.
it's only a couple seconds. It's only a couple
Yes.
seconds. It's not like he like erased like, you know, days. Like it was like he went back like a few seconds and like, and dude, when he was going back in time and you saw Superman, like, because I didn't realize what was happening at first, but then when you see him running back in time, you see Superman like reattach and like the blood come together and the bones start coming together and the skin and you realize like, oh shit, these people all like blew apart, and like, and you see like Superman kind of reform, and then like it goes back and then you see Cyborg start to reform, and it's like, oh shit, like everything like just like got nuked and he's like changing it back. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really cool moment visually, you know, and emotionally. You know, his line about what is the exact line? What does he say? Like make your own past, make your own future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's like,
it's all like, now. It's all right now. Right. Isn't that it?
Yeah. And he says something about like his dad too. He's like, Dad, I want you to know your son was like one of these guys. Like that was like super emotional. Yeah.
That got me. Cause I know. And that's the thing, like just as far as tying all of this stuff back together. Cause it's like, you have that moment with his dad at the beginning and he's like, you're brilliant, man. He's like, you're the best of the best. And it's like, oh, I'm like, I'd forgotten about that. I'm glad you brought that up. But when he has that moment where he's like, you know, your son was, oh man. And it's like, that's the thing, like they all had their part to play and they all had such a key role in that, you know, Superman, that was clutch when he showed up and, you know, Cyborg pulling apart the mother boxes and Flash, you know, rewinding time.
I mean, it does suck that we didn't get him pushing that truck and then speaking like German or Russian to that like family. Like it sucks we had to sacrifice that, but like, I'm just kidding. I know. That scene was horrible. I'm so glad that wasn't in there.
I know. Oh, you know, once again, it's like, why the studio thought, you know, we would be more invested in this subplot with a random Russian family, like in the middle of this battle, as opposed to any of the stuff that got cut is, I'll never be able to wrap my head around.
Mind-boggling. Yeah, mind-boggling. Dude, and like that joke where Superman's carrying the building and Flash is like running next to it. It's like, I'm so glad none of that crap was in there. Like,
but I thought, go ahead.
One other thing about Flash, the first time we talked about the theatrical cut way back when, the scene where they revived Superman, you said to me, you were like, why did they say that he had to hit the, like, so what happens is they're dropping this mother box into like this like liquid that the dead Superman body's in to revive him, right? And they're using the mother box as engine, and the ship's power source isn't strong enough, so Flash has to charge it with his lightning, right? And in the theatrical cut, they said that, now Barry, you have to make sure that to make this work, you have to hit the lightning to touch the box the moment it hits the water, right? And in this version, they don't bring that up at all. And you asked me when we first recorded, you're like, why did it have to be the moment it hit the water? And I have an answer for you now. It's because they had that slow motion footage and they wanted to use it. Because like in this cut, he basically has to reverse time. It's the lightning that's generated when he reverses time is the power charge that he needs. That's the only strength he can get. The lightning strong enough to charge it. So what they did was he ran back and ran forward, and when the box hit the water, that's the moment that in this version, the real version, he started reversing time. So you see the box kind of slowly lift up out of the water, and you see the picture of his dad slowly lift up out of the water. So like they had this slow motion shot that was intended to show that that's the point in which the Flash generated enough power to touch it, but they totally forego all that. So they're like, well, we have this cool shot, so we got to use it. Like,
you know, I totally thought about that when I was watching it, and I was so glad that that bit was out of there, because that drove me nuts. I was just like, why? Like, why does it have to be at the same time?
I was waiting for it though. I was like, are they going to explain why it has to be the moment it hits the water? And then they never did. And I was like, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah. I also love that, like, there's this miscommunication where Cyborg's like, don't, and Barry's like, go.
Yeah.
or no, I don't know if he says no or don't, you know, but I thought that was great. I thought, I mean, overall I was again, like Barry still remained the comic relief as I thought he would, but they didn't sacrifice his competence, his scientific mind, his heroism. Great.
Dude, the grave, the scene where they're exhuming Superman's body, so much better in this one. Because, okay, first of all, Aquaman and Wonder Woman were with them. But then, like, you got that moment where Barry Allen was like before they start to dig, he just kind of like sits there and he's like, he was my hero, man. Like, you know, like you get that moment that like, oh, like it makes sense because like the reason that Flash is becoming a superhero is because of Superman, right? Like, did you get that? Like, so when he got the powers, he's not just using the powers to help with the CSI stuff. The reason he's a superhero and has a suit is because Superman exists. And I'm like, oh, that's such a cool, like little, like, you know, character moment, you know?
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And like, again, like I said, you know, that we just had more references to Superman throughout the movie, which I think was, you know, was very fitting. I mean, even though he wasn't, again, we only saw him on screen, you know, in that opening sequence, and then we don't see him for most of the movie, you know, but you feel his presence more. And, I know you also mentioned, and this was actually interesting to me. I'm still kind of thinking it through, but you're right. In the theatrical cut, there's this ethical debate that the League has about whether they should bring Clark back. And you really don't get that here. But even though I think it is an interesting idea to explore, I think ultimately it makes sense that they didn't necessarily go down that road in this, because it's like, these are end of the world stakes here. It's like, if they have a chance to bring him back, it's like, they almost don't have a choice. It's like, they have to try. You know?
Well, the debate was more like, if we activate the mother box, Steppenwolf will know where the mother box is. It wasn't so much. It was more like, no, we need him back no matter what. But like, that's not the issue. The issue is whether we activate this mother box. Like,
it was. I know it was way more tactical. It wasn't like, you know, what happens to a soul when a person dies? This was like, listen, the second we turn this thing on.
You didn't get the stupid like Pet Cemetery jokes or anything. You know, like none of that was in there. Oh, dude, with the grave scene, like I thought that it was a good way that like the humor between Flash and Cyborg, I thought was so like perfect in that scene, because like Cyborg is so like not funny, but because of that, he kind of becomes funny. Like, did you notice that? Like when Barry Allen's like, so dude, Wonder Woman, think she'd ever, you know, date a younger guy? And he's like, everybody's younger. She's 5,000 years old. Start digging. Like, it's just like so deadpan. Like, it was really funny. Like,
I know. No, that was terrific. So again, I guess while we're in the area of the resurrection, you know, there's that scene when they realize that they can bring Clark back, right? Where Cyborg creates that hologram, right, of Clark, of, you know, Superman. And so that shot was in like some of the earliest trailers, and I think it was even in like one of Snyder's original trailers years ago, like the shot of Bruce looking at the hologram. Now, I misinterpreted that initially. I thought that took place earlier in the movie, and that it showed that he was working on a way to bring Clark back all along. Because one of the things I didn't like in the theatrical cut was like, all of a sudden it just occurs to them like, oh, maybe we could bring him back. I liked this notion that like Bruce was working on the problem of how to bring Superman back. And obviously that was not the intent, and that's not the way they went with it. And overall, I think, that probably makes sense, right? It's like, why would he think he could bring someone back from the dead? I mean, that would probably be, as smart as Bruce is, I feel like that would probably be a bit of a stretch. So I was surprised that was where that little hologram thing came into play. I really thought that was going to be somewhere else.
Well, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but like, I can't remember how they brought him back in the comics. It might have actually been more along the lines of what was in the theatrical cut, with like the idea that his body is so strong that the cells are dormant and not dead, kind of thing, right? Is that how it was in the comics when he came back? Is that sort of idea?
I mean, basically, like, so the Eradicator puts him in a rejuvenation matrix in the fortress that bombards him with solar radiation, and that, like, revives him. That's basically it. But then there was also this Adventures of, not to take us too far afield, but there was also Adventures of Superman 500, where it's like the battle for Clark's soul, where he's in the afterlife and he's with Jonathan, who's had a heart attack, and they're both kind of fighting their way back to the land of the living, like their souls. So it was sort of like this dual thing where it's like the body needed to be restored with solar radiation, but like the soul also needed to fight to return.
Okay. So I liked it better in this version that it wasn't like a Kryptonian magical thing. Like it wasn't like, oh, because Superman's a Kryptonian, his body's dormant and therefore we can revive him. I like that it was literally the mother box like reassembled his body, like through time, basically time traveled his body. I actually really like that, because it was more like that could have done that to any of them. Like if Aquaman died, they could have done that to, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and it added more weight to his death. And this is like super small, like shift. And like most people probably won't notice it, but to me it was more powerful because it was like, no, Superman was dead. Like he was dead. And like, they through the mother box were able to revive him, not because he was dormant and he can't die. Like, I don't like the idea that he's like an everlasting, never ending like being. Like that's kind of like strange. So like, I like this version of him more. It made him feel more human.
I'm with you on that. I made fun of this the very first years ago when we podcasted about Justice League, and of course this remained true. That when Clark comes back and then he flies up, it's like he loses all of his clothes except his pants, which remain fully intact. But then we get that battle in Metropolis Park that again, that was primarily Snyder footage. Right. And we thankfully excised a lot of the goofier stuff, the "do you bleed" line, Batman lying on the grass saying like, oh, something's broken, like all that stuff.
You won't let me live and you won't let me die. And like, it looks like he's dubbed because of the weird mustache thing.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought like the battle was much more. Oh, and I mean, I feel like there was, what's funny? I don't know if you've seen this like on YouTube. There are a lot of people now already who have put up side-by-side comparisons of the two cuts. And I haven't, I don't know. I don't have the interest to like really get into that. It's like the theatrical cut was bad. It's like this was the superior true version, and I don't really need to look at that old footage again. But I feel like the fight itself, there were a few more beats, and like, again, was a lot more brutal.
Well, I mean, talking about Flash's competence, he was like, he had more of a fight in this too. Like, you know what I mean? Like he dodged and weaved, and it was more like, it was showing how Superman can like overpower someone, even though like Flash was still like kind of one step ahead of him, but it was like, but he didn't have the power to actually physically hurt him. It was just like, he was able to kind of stay out of his way a lot, And
this is again, another instance where everything connects better, because we had that scene with Iris, like that was it was a lengthy sequence where we got to see how Barry's powers worked and what it's like when everything slows down around him. So I think it has more weight in this cut when Clark turns and Barry's like, oh shit, like, he's as fast as I am. And it's like, you get that either way, but I think having that other scene like really hammers that home even more, and it's more effective. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even when he fought the parademons, like in the beginning in the tunnel, like he had a couple sequences where like he was just rocking parademons, like he's like and like pushing them through like wall, like exploding through walls. So like it showed that he was a more competent, and they excised that for that stupid joke about him just like, I'll just push people and run away. Like they really did him a disservice for sure in that version of it. And like this, like, it added more weight when you see Superman actually being able to like match him at that like velocity, that like, it's like, oh shit, like Superman's like not to be messed with at all,
Yeah. I will, again, man, I'm loath to give any credit to Whedon after the hack job he did on this movie. And now, because, like the last time you and I talked about the Justice League theatrical cut, we hadn't seen the Snyder version, so we didn't know, right? And I think I was a little bit more reserved. But now, having seen both, it's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, they tore this movie to shreds. They tore this movie to shreds. I agree. But so I'm loath to give him any credit, and not to mention all the stuff that now has come out from people who have worked for him. It's like whatever, but like not whatever. It's terrible. I'm saying whatever. I don't feel the need to soften this. But there was that one thing in the theatrical cut that I thought was interesting, that Bruce had the foresight to kind of have Lois there to calm Clark down, which I thought was smart, and from a strategic perspective, like made a lot of sense. And in this case, he more kind of gets lucky that she had like, that she's there, and obviously the end result is the same. She's able to get through to him. But I did think it was interesting in the other version that it's like he knew he might need her to reach out to reach through to Clark.
But that I feel like is more has to do with the fact that in that version, the theatrical cut, there was a big plot point of them being like, well, if he comes back, he might not come back the same, right? Where in this, like, they never even assumed that. In this one, they just assumed like, oh, he comes back, he's gonna come back Superman, right? Yeah. But like, it's almost like they're like surprised by the fact that he's like kind of like nuts, you know?
That's a good
He's like disoriented. Disoriented is more the right word. And the reason that he attacks the Justice League is that he doesn't know who these people are. So to him, they could be, you know what I mean? Batman's not there. He sees Cyborg with the cannon. I mean, I guess he
knows Wonder Woman.
Does he?
Barely.
Like,
barely.
Yeah, I don't think he ever talked to her, did he? He just fought next to her against, you know what I mean? So
it's true.
Yeah, I could see where he would think that, like, in coming back from the dead, like, you know,
yeah,
so itchy. You know, he's probably just so mad because he was so itchy that, like.
So again, like I said, you know, and I had given you the heads up, right? Like, it's not so much more Clark screen time, but it is a lot better. And thankfully, we lose that scene at the farm where Lois is like, "What was it like?" Itchy. It's like, what? Like, you know. So I very much enjoyed the farm scene. You know, like, that's the thing, man. I would have watched 20 minutes on the farm. You know, it never felt like enough. But you know, the scene with them both inside and outside, and you know, Martha showing up and all of that, I thought was really nice. And even just as he's kind of like coming back to reality when Lois gives him the shirt and he's talking about the house and, you know, how Martha had to sell it, and he's like, you know, she loved it here, like I loved it here. And, you know, you see him start to come back, and then, you know, the scene with them in the field where he's like, I'll take that as a yes. And Lois and the audience, I think, like, we see like, oh, okay, like Clark's back now, right?
Yeah. I love when he tells his mom, he's like, they need me, like they brought me back for a reason, like I need to get going. Like, yeah, it was like, it had such a good weight to it. Like, I don't want to, I just want to stay here with you guys, but like, I have to, you know what I mean? Like, in that, there was that Superman thing that we're talking about, that selflessness that we always talk about. It was like, it was so prevalent in this one, you know?
Right. So it's like, to anyone who still continues to doubt like this version of the character, it's like, do you want a moment of heroism? This guy just came back from the dead. You know, it's like, I'm sure all he wants is to hang out on the farm, but it's like, no, right. He makes that choice to, you know, to leave. And then we get, you know, the sequence. Wait. Yeah.
Oh no, go on. No, I think you're going to talk about it. Go.
When he's in the fortress yeah. So that's the thing. Like, you know, we get this sequence that was cut, and on the original Justice League Blu-ray, they did include this as a deleted scene of Clark walking through the ship and seeing the different costumes. But that did not include the voices of Jor-El and Jonathan. That was not in that deleted scene. And so that was a very nice surprise. I was happy to see that. And that, again, like this whole theme of parents and children, like the, you know, the fact that he, you know, hears the voices of these two fathers that he had. And I wanted to ask you about this because there's stuff that we had not heard before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now I don't know if that was new stuff that they recorded or deleted I mean, I don't know. Do you have any indication?
I have no idea. I mean, I did notice there was new stuff, and I actually was wondering the same exact thing, if that was, I mean, it might have been done back in 2016 or whatever when they were filming this movie. Maybe it wasn't from Man of Steel, but maybe it was from, you know, or maybe it was part of the reshoots. Who knows? Like, you know, the recent ones from last year, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, we get, you know, again, in Man of Steel, you know, Jonathan and Jor-El have, you know, a couple of really powerful speeches to Clark about his role in the world. And that was, of course, the whole theme of that movie. Like, what is his relationship going to be with the world? And so, you know, to kind of have that come back around was really powerful. But then to get, you know, to get those new sound bites where, you know, where Jonathan says, you know, it's time, like it's time to fly, Clark. And where Jor-El says, like, you did it, like you gave them hope. You know, I just thought that was so terrific. I loved it.
And then it's followed up by like one of the coolest shots in the movie when he flies up into the sun wearing the black costume, and like you just see like the sun hitting him, and like with the Hans Zimmer music, it just looks so epic and like comic book perfect, you know, like, oh, so good. Yeah,
it was great. I mean, I really, I love that whole sequence. It, you know, breaks my heart that was taken out. It's, you know, it's funny. And I know you had shared with me that you were purposely avoiding a lot of the teasers and stuff that they were releasing ahead of this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I watched them all. And, you know, they put out a series of like 1 minute character-centric teasers. And for the Clark one, we heard Jonathan say, it's time, son, fly. And I knew, and listening to that, I was like, okay, like that was not in Man of Steel. So I did get my hopes up a little bit. I thought Clark might actually have a scene with Jonathan, like a vision like he had in Batman v Superman, or kind of going back to the comics that I was just talking about a minute ago. I thought that maybe we would see Clark like with Jonathan in the afterlife. Like my imagination really went wild. I was like, oh, we're going to get it's going to be great.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little disappointed, but that was only because I got ahead of myself. But it was, again, even just hearing those voices, it was great. And to just kind of connect this journey that Clark has had. And, he picks out the black costume. We don't get any, he never articulates any reason why. He never talks to anyone.
It looks cool, man. I mean, like, because you see the blue costume there, you see the armor, you see the blue costume, and then you see him like stop and like look at what we are then shown is the black costume. And like, dude, I think the black costume is sweet. And I know that you texted me saying that, I wish he didn't have the cape, and because of the comics didn't have the cape. And then I texted back and said, well, I don't know. Like, would have been cool if he had like maybe a silver cape or a red cape, to break it up, because of the red with the black would have looked cool. That would have looked cool. But in the movie, dude, the black, there's something like elegant and like regal looking about the all black with the silver S and the silver trim on the boots and the gloves that, like, I don't know, man. It looks so good. Like, there's like a very regal, like knightly, kingly look to like just a straight black with the silver. And I'm like, it looks so good. Like, I would be okay if the next Superman movie, he was just wearing that suit. Like, I would be so down with that. Like, I know some people might have an issue with it, but I thought it looked great.
Yeah. It was really cool. No arguments here. And I don't really I don't have that strong of an opinion about the cape. I was thinking about it further after we texted. I mean, part of me feels like without the cape, it makes it something like I don't know. It goes beyond like, oh, it's just a different costume. Right. So there's something that's kind of cool to me about it. Like if it's capeless, because otherwise it's just his costume in a different color. But if there's no cape, it's like there's something, there's a different quality to it. But I don't mind the cape, and I thought it looked cool. I mean, it looks so good on screen. And, we talked about this in one of our other podcasts, but like Snyder had to sneak this in basically. Like he wanted to film Cavill in the black costume. The studio said no. So he was like, okay, I'll shoot him in the blue costume and then I'll just change it in post-production. And
wait, that's all post-production?
Yeah. So
really?
he has confirmed this. And if you look, like there are photos from the original shoot of Snyder directing him, and he's in the blue costume. But what he and his editor did, or the visual effects folks, I don't know what they did, but they made certain tweaks to the blue costume that would make it easier to color correct it in post. So I don't know exactly what that involved, but that's what they did. So he filmed Cavill in the blue costume, and the black is all post-production.
That's crazy. That's crazy because it looks so good. I mean, even the shirt rip at the end, with it being the black suit with the silver S, looks so good. And I'm like, damn, like who thought this would have been a bad idea? I don't get it. I really don't get it. But
I mean, look, and I don't want to put myself in the position of defending these executives, but I mean, I guess in the aftermath of Batman v Superman, where, you and I did not share this criticism, but a lot of people felt like it was too dark. So I guess Snyder being like, hey, in the next movie, he's going to be in a black costume. They were probably like, no. I really think it came down to that. I really think they were like, people say these movies are too dark. You can't put him in a black costume. And so that was it. So I think that's what it comes down to, but I'm glad that he you got to give this guy credit. Like he found a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm. And to counter what you said about it feeling like it's something different than just a color swap on his costume, I actually like that. I do like the comic version that it's like the healing suit and whatever. And but for this universe, I kind of like that. It's just like, you know what? Feeling like wearing black today. Like I kind of like that. It's just like a different suit that I've got, I'm just going to rock it. And I think there's just something kind of cool about that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So, I mean, getting that scene with that music and those voiceovers, and then, like you said, flying, above the earth, just gorgeous. The scene with Alfred, just a simple moment, but you just see his calm and his grace, followed by the fury that he unleashes on Steppenwolf, and it's just like, it's great. It's funny. And I was thinking about this. Like Clark doesn't say much in the movie. like if you counted up all his lines, he really says very little. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of screen time. He doesn't say all that much. You know, I wish, you know, it's like, and again, I know this wasn't intended to be the last time we see him, right? So you have to factor that in. But it's like, you know, it's like I wish we could have had Lois tell him about the pregnancy. I wish, you know, I don't know. I wish we could have seen the world's reaction to his return. I mean, like, there's so much stuff that, you know, I wish we could have gotten more of. But yeah, it was great. And that action sequence, I know we talked about it before, but god damn, that was awesome.
Yeah, so good. What about Aquaman?
I was thinking about Aquaman. I mean, what do you have about Aquaman?
Well, I noticed that his world was a lot more built out, right? Like with Vulko and Mera, and like they looked a lot different than what they looked like in the Aquaman movie. Did you notice that?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Vulko looked like their design, like their character design was much different. And Mera in the movie didn't have an English accent, did she? In the Aquaman movie?
Thank you. Because I was driving, I was like, when I heard her talking this, I'm like, and again, I only watched Aquaman once, but I was like, did she have an accent? I don't think she did. No, I don't think she did.
I didn't think she did either. And Laura said the same thing when we were watching it. And I was like, huh. I mean, all the Atlanteans in this seem to have the British accent. And I was like, maybe that's why they cut it all out, because it wasn't jiving with what James Wan was doing, maybe? I don't know, but I thought it was great. All the Vulko stuff, all the Mera stuff, it was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, they rounded out his character and his world more. I mean, I'm trying to think. I guess there wasn't, unlike with Flash and Cyborg, there wasn't as much with him where I was like, other than, again, like what we just mentioned, and, you know, certainly Vulko in particular, it's like, you know, he was completely gone from the other cut. But, and then obviously we lost some of the goofier stuff, like him sitting on Wonder Woman's lasso, and
thank God,
you know, that whole thing. And again, like, you know, like I said before, like that original recruitment scene with Bruce, like just really, you know, had a lot more weight to it.
I mean, they made him a more serious character in this. Like, he didn't have like his Yahoo surfer stuff, like oh, just like a bat, dig it, ow! Like he didn't do any of that in this. You know, he didn't go yee oh ow! Like he wasn't like shouting and stuff and doing his like Point Break, like Hang 10 kind of stuff that he did in the other one. So like I kind of like the more. I mean, when I saw the other one, I liked they added that to him, but like now in seeing this version of it, I like this more kind of serious, stoic version a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm with you too. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like you know, and maybe I'll have more after a second viewing, which I know we're not done talking about the characters, but I was curious, what, like how many times do you think you'll watch this?
Oh, dude. I mean, it's long. I mean, that's like the one thing I will say about my only gripe with it is that it's so long. So like it makes it more of like literally my entire afternoon was spent watching it, you know? So like that makes it more of a Herculean task to watch it again. But I don't know. I mean, probably a couple more times at least. I mean, I'll definitely probably watch with my dad at some point, and then you know, when I have kids, I'll definitely watch it with them, you know. But like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't rewatch movies in general a ton. Like even the movies I love, like I don't really rewatch them a lot. So like they burn into my head pretty well. Like Aquaman, we were just talking about, I loved that movie, but I only ever saw it in theaters. Like I never rewatched it, you know, and I loved it. So
same here. Yeah, I don't, you know, it's funny. Like I used to rewatch stuff more, and I think probably just due to lack of time, like I don't really do that as much these days, except for the podcast. So, you know, that might be a reason to revisit it. I mean, I'll definitely watch it again when Steph wants to watch it. I'm curious, this will actually be, not that I'm testing her, but this will be kind of a test of the movie because, you know, I said to her, I was like, you know, we can split it up. Right. And actually on that note, I thought the chapter breaks were great. I thought that really helped with the flow, and it really made it seem like it was going faster. You know what I mean?
I'll agree.
Because they were 7 chapters with the, you know, right, 6 and then the epilogue, right? So you had like 7 chapters. So, you know, so yes, 4 hours is a lot, but when you're dividing it up into 7 chapters, it's like no one chapter was that long. And then every time you saw the title card come on, it's like, okay, like we're moving along here.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But
no, I mean, Oh no, say what you're gonna say.
No,
I want to get back to that though. But say what you're gonna say.
No, I was just gonna say, like, when I watch it with Steph, because I said to her, I'm like, we can break it up, and there are these chapters. Like, it's very easy to carve this up. We can do 2 hours and 2 hours. I'll be curious to see if she's so into it that we keep going, because I'll do 4 hours straight again. That's fine. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see. Again, she's seen all these movies, so she's like, it's not like, I mean, she's invested in this too. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say, because before this was coming out, before it dropped, because I listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of movie specific podcasts, and a lot of people were complaining about that it was gonna be so long. And like even myself, I was like, man, 4 hours is gonna be a long time. And one of the things that was brought up on these podcasts was, why do people complain that a movie's 4 hours, yet they'll like binge Cobra Kai, which is 6 hours straight through? And I think there is a reason for that. I think that movies, and this will go back to the Snyder Cut with the chapter breaks, is that the reason movies that are 245 plus, right, 3 hours, 3.5, whatever, feel so long is because movies like have a beginning, middle, and end, right? And they have the rising action in a long movie that just drags out forever. Whereas when you're watching like Cobra Kai or like any show that you binge, you have the beginning, middle, and end in an hour. So you go on this emotional arc that like kicks you off, gets you emotionally going, concludes, and then tees you up for the next chapter. So you go on the whole sort of, you complete the emotional arc, but then they like reading a book, they like give you that teaser to keep going where you're like, oh, well, I got to find out what happens next. Whereas like when you're watching like a 3.5 hour long movie, you don't have that. You're just kind of chugging through that middle part for like a very long time. So you don't have that emotional kind of like conclusion and mystery quotient to like keep going. Back to the Snyder Cut, because they broke it up in those ways, it actually kind of mimicked that in weird ways, right? Like the chapter would start, and you're like, oh shit, well now what's gonna happen, you know? Like it did kind of have like a long part of the rising action, but it was still, there were so many characters and so many different plot things going that you like got really invested. And then the chapter breaks had the names on them, so you knew like, well, what does that mean, you know, kind of thing. So I think it helped a lot, to go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I think what you laid out makes a lot of sense. I have a similar theory about why like Netflix shows in particular can feel so much slower. It's not even so much that they're longer than like a network television show, but without the commercial breaks, like a network television show is structured around those commercial breaks. So there's some kind of an exciting incident, right, that's going to make you want to come back after the commercial, and it just creates a different flow. And like with a lot of these Netflix shows, it's just like they just run for an hour and then they stop. Like you don't have that structure to it. So I think that's what makes it feel longer, not just that it's 55 minutes instead of 42. But the chapter breaks helped a lot. Going back into our characters here, I loved Bruce in this. I mean, it was interesting because I feel like with Bruce and Diana, I mean, we could talk about the two of them together maybe. Batman v Superman really did a lot of the heavy lifting, especially with Bruce. I mean, that was really his like main arc, I feel like, was in that movie. And this was like his quest to unite the team, but it wasn't so much like he had to go from point A to point B. It was just like he had to bring the team together. But I loved how he was like so forceful, like and I guess this goes into the theme of like him acting more on faith than reason, but like he just willed stuff to happen. Like when Diana's like, the age of heroes, it'll never come again. He's like, it will, it has to. And like at every point along the way when the characters are like, I don't know if this will work, because it'll work. He just willed it to happen.
I mean, I don't know how you in general thought of, I mean, I know we both said that we like Ben Affleck as Batman, but I didn't know how much you did previous to this. But I will say that like I always liked him as Batman, but he was never like my all-time favorite. Like I like all the Batmans for different reasons, but like I would probably give the edge to Christian Bale like before seeing this. And I'm psyched for the Robert Pattinson Batman. Like I think it's gonna be great, but like, damn, this movie made me love Ben Affleck as Batman even more, and I want to see more. And I think this movie cemented in my head that I think he's my favorite Batman up to this point. Like I think he's superseded Christian Bale. Like I really do, because like he didn't feel like tired and like old and like out of shape like he did in the Justice League one, because he didn't do that scene where he's like drinking whiskey with Wonder Woman and like he just looks like he's like giving up on like everything, and I'm just like, he just doesn't want to be here. But in this movie, man, he was like the tough, scary, badass, just fighting Batman that like everyone wants to see. And it took, thank God, that scene from the original movie, that opening scene with the parademon wasn't in there with those like hokey jokes, like.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was very happy to see that go. Well, I know that's the funny thing is like the whole opening of the movie is completely different. I mean, you know, we don't have that stupid cell phone footage of Superman talking to the kids about how his S is a river and it's like finding your car keys or whatever. And then you know, that rooftop scene with Batman and the I know it was just like I was very happy to see those go. But yeah, I know like Affleck was great in this. He looked great. I mean, look, when they did the reshoots, I think that was a tough time for him personally, right? Like he's, you know, it's been public about, you know, his issues that he's had. And maybe creatively, he probably wasn't thrilled with what was happening. I mean, I would imagine, you know, we didn't love watching it. I can only imagine what it was like filming it.
Dude, I can't even imagine. We can talk about that later, but I can't even imagine what was going through those actors' minds, like doing that. But he was so good in this, though, man. He was like money as Batman. I so wish, like, because remember he was supposed to be in The Batman, was supposed to be his movie, and it was supposed to have Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, and they teased that up at the end of this movie with Deathstroke, with Lex Luthor telling Deathstroke that Bruce Wayne's Batman. Yeah. And that, I think, was supposed to be the Batman movie, was him fighting Deathstroke.
That was.
And so, dude, that would have been great. And like, I can only imagine that these reshoots are probably why he's not Batman anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have to imagine that was a big factor. And so Joe Manganiello talked about this in an interview that, so yeah, what we saw in the Snyder version, that was what Manganiello filmed. So what we saw in Justice League was Manganiello's footage, but then I guess the Eisenberg or portions of the Eisenberg stuff was a reshoot where instead of saying like, hey, he's Bruce Wayne, you know, is that line about like, well, we have to form a league of our own, right? So, and again, going back to what I said before, you know, the studio pivoting away from following up on the dark side thread and instead saying, okay, next time it's going to be the Injustice League, right? So it was great to see the original version of that scene between Deathstroke and Lex. And it's like, yeah, man, like that was and it's, I don't know, like it makes, given this version of Lex, it makes way more sense, I feel, that he would do that instead of say, like, we have to make a supervillain team. It's like, what?
Yeah, no, he also didn't feel, Lex is a character who is, in that one scene that he's in, feels way more threatening and menacing and grounded and in line with the previous movie than in the Joss one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You're right, because it's like, well, what's the most dangerous thing he could do? Well, he could tell a villain, you know, the secret identity of you know, one of these characters, not say like, hey, we're going to have a supervillain team up next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the plan for the Batman. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that would have been awesome, dude. Like, and Ben Affleck, like he was so good as Batman in this. Like, I don't know. It kind of breaks my heart that he's like, I'm really looking forward to the Robert Pattinson one, and I think that's going to be a fantastic movie. But yeah, Ben Affleck was great.
Look, the line that I referenced at the start of this podcast, and this was in the first Snyder cut trailer, you know, within the past year, you know, where they're all planning for their battle, and he's like, I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never faced us, not us united. And it's like, God damn, like this guy is so cool.
Yeah. He's like the best Bruce Wayne too, I think. Of like all the Bruce Waynes, like he really is. Like because he has that like cool
playboy
factor.
Charm.
Yeah, but like he's also really driven and serious. Like, and I feel like Christian Bale had that a little bit, but I mean, Christian Bale was good. Like, I'm definitely not gonna. I don't want to start crapping on Christian Bale because Christian Bale was awesome. I think he was like a fantastic Batman. But this one, because this one's interacting with the rest of the wider DCU, he feels more comic accurate, right? Like because he's like interacting with Superman and Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Flash and Aquaman. Like he's existing in this world that has everyone. So therefore, by that nature alone, he feels more like the comic book Batman that we've like known and read about. You know.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a really key point. And I guess too, like, you know, I mean, we've only had 2 movies with him, but you've seen him as the world has expanded. So it's like, kind of, I guess maybe when we first see him, it's sort of, it could almost be kind of in line with like the Christian Bale version. But then, we have the Superman and Wonder Woman stuff and moving forward into this movie. So it's like, I think it can be easy to take Christian Bale for granted. And if he still remains my favorite, but I don't know, man, it's like almost neck and neck at this point. I really love the Affleck Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He's so good at
for sure.
Like, and like on multiple levels, like when he's the kind of the playboy, and when he's just conferring with Alfred, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. And he's like leading the team. Yeah,
it was great. And Wonder Woman, can we talk about the fact that she chops off Steppenwolf's head?
So awesome, dude. So awesome, dude. When that happened, when she was bringing the sword down, right? I was said to her, I'm like, she's gonna cut his head off. And Laura's like, no, she's not. I go, she's gonna cut his head right off. And what's gonna happen is, like, I'm saying it as the movie's going on, and you're gonna see them separate. And like that's what happened. I was like, that was fucking awesome. That was so good.
It was great. It was great, and it was cool too. The fact that she, got the message from Themyscira, and she was able to kind of like piece together this history and relay it to Bruce. I guess that's essentially what we got in the theatrical cut, but this definitely gave us more to it.
This one felt more like Wonder Woman was discovering it, where in the theatrical cut it was just like, oh no, this is like, I know this because I'm an Amazon.
Yeah,
and like
you're
this
right.
one was more like you saw like the ancient cave paintings, and you saw like the creepy painting of Darkseid and stuff, and like this again, it felt more real and grounded, and like in the sense of like she wasn't a cipher, like a plot cipher. She was like a character discovering something and like contributing to the team, And dude, her action scenes were so brutal and visceral, like dude, I love the warrior Wonder Woman, the one who like has the sword and the shield and just kicks ass. Like that's the Wonder Woman I love, and like. In the Justice League version, the Justice League version felt more like the Ambassador of Peace Wonder Woman, which is like still a valid interpretation, but like I jive with the Warrior version. Like I just think she's like cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she was awesome. And like her recruitment scene with Cyborg, I thought that was effective. I really dug what they did with her. And yeah, that final fight where she chops the head off was just, and I think that had been rumored. So I kind of had a sense that was coming, but yeah, man, it was so cool. And as it's happening in slow motion, I had the same thought. I'm like, oh, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. But it's like perfectly in character, especially with this version of her. And, this, I guess, would be a separate discussion, but, I was not a fan of Wonder Woman 1984. And so like to go back and to watch this, it's like, oh, all right, that's the character for sure.
Nice. I still haven't seen Wonder Woman 84, so I can't compare them. But from what I've heard, I think I will probably like this version much more.
Yeah. And again, here too, I mean, like a lot of I think the work for her arc was done in Batman v Superman, even though she didn't have a ton of screen time there, but kind of making that decision to.
Well, she had her own movie too, the first one.
Right.
She had her first movie, which was great. That's still one of the best DC movies. Is her first Wonder Woman movie. So yeah, this was more just kind of like a showcase of her like being awesome. Like you didn't really have to do much backstory with her. You just had to like have her kick ass and look cool, and she did it like top to bottom. So
yeah,
she was awesome.
And, I really like that they, all this, because there was a lot of like sexual tension with her and Bruce in the theatrical cut. Like there were numerous scenes, with that. I'm glad that was gone. There's that little moment here where they both reach for the mouse and their hands hit, but it's a very subtle moment. It's not overpowering. So I thought that worked much better.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, I know we talked about Darkseid before, but yeah, it was just, that's the thing. It's like, not only did they improve Steppenwolf, like they improved Steppenwolf so much that even if they hadn't brought back the Darkseid stuff, if it had just been Steppenwolf, I would have been like, okay, like I'm on board with this. But on top of that, they gave us this larger picture and this, this looming threat that's still out there. And I just thought it was so cool. And it was neat too, I guess, to see different versions of Darkseid, because you see young Darkseid in the flashback. And then you see, the sort of when Steppenwolf is communing with him from Earth, right? And then you see him actually on Apokolips. And then in the flashes to the nightmare world, I mean, like you get a decent amount of Darkseid.
Yeah, no, dude, I was shocked how much Darkseid was in it, and that the the flashback that was in the original movie, but in this one was more fleshed out. Way better in this version. The Age of Heroes flashback. The Green Lantern looked really cool. How he had the raised symbols. Dude, if I had one huge disappointment, I was expecting Hal Jordan to be in this movie. Like, I thought he was going to be the teaser at the end.
Right.
And, like, it was cool to get John Jones, Martian Manhunter in there, which we can talk about. But, like, I so wish Hal Jordan was in here, you know?
So Snyder's original plan for that scene at the end was for it to be Jon Stewart, not Martian Manhunter.
Really?
Yeah. And he says he filmed it and the studio made him change it.
Really?
Because they have their own, I guess, with the show that they're planning, you know, the HBO Max Green Lantern series. I don't know if there or elsewhere they have their own plans for Jon Stewart. So he pivoted to Martian Manhunter instead. But that was his original plan.
Did they say who was cast as Jon Stewart?
They did not. So that's the thing. Like, you know, and isn't that something like the one disappointment with this movie was something that he, you know, I mean, it wasn't Hal Jordan, but it's like he wanted to do Green Lantern.
It's an Earth Green Lantern. I would have been happy with John, Hal, or Kyle. One of those three, I would have been happy. Like,
yeah.
Damn, dude. Seriously? Yeah. Man. I mean, the Martian Manhunter thing was cool. Don't get me wrong. That was still cool, but most people don't know who Martian Manhunter is. So, like, I don't know if that, like, effect would have been the same, you know, in the theater. Because I know Laura didn't. Laura was like, "Who's this?" And I go, "He's Martian Manhunter." She's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "He was on the Justice League cartoon." She's like, "I'm a girl. I never watched that." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but like, he's in the Justice League. He's like the least well-known member of the Justice League, but he's in there.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that though, because now you know he's been a main character on Supergirl for its entire run on the CW. So I mean, maybe there's a little more recognizability now. But I do get what you're saying. I was totally on. I love the idea that. You know, that Swanwick is Martian Manhunter in disguise. I thought the ending scene was cool, you know, hinting at, you know, there's yet an even larger world and other characters like Martian Manhunter who, you know, now can be pulled into this. The one thing I didn't love that in that Martha Lois scene, that Martha was the Martian Manhunter in disguise, I felt that it did kind of undercut, because I thought it was a beautiful scene. Between Martha.
Yeah, you're right.
I thought it was a really beautiful scene, and yes, a massive improvement over the thirsty scene from Justice League. But you know, when Martha leaves the apartment and then morphs into Martian Manhunter, and you know, he says like, you know, we don't just need Superman, like we need Lois Lane as well, or you know, whatever. It's a nice sentiment, but I don't know. I feel like it took away from the Martha scene, like that. I was a little disappointed. I thought maybe they could have worked out some other way to have him appear before the end of the movie. You know?
Yeah. You're right. I totally forgot about that. I just got so wrapped up in the moment of the reveal of him that I totally like forgot that. He was the one that was actually Martha. But I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then, you know, going back to Darkseid and what we were talking about before, like with Snyder leaving this open ended. Again, I support his decision, right? Like he's leaving the movie the way he originally intended. And you know what, again, it's like, you never know. He might have an opportunity to tell more stories. So why not? But also like at the end of the battle with Steppenwolf, when they have that face off via boom tube, right. With Darkseid on Apocalypse. And then afterwards we see Darkseid saying like, you know, ready the armadas. It's like, what would you have wanted Darkseid to say? Like, oh, I lost. I guess I'll give up. It's like, no. Yeah. It's like, I mean, so this idea that like, okay, there's a larger threat. Darkseid's not done yet. I mean, I think to leave it that open is not that big of a deal. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the bigger cliffhanger is more the nightmare sequence epilogue. Yes. I think that's the bigger cliffhanger than because the Darkseid thing, if that was the end, like, yeah, that would, you're right. It would have been like the first Avengers movie where like Thanos is at the end and you just kind of see that tease of him. But like, I think the nightmare sequence is what has people like, we need to see this next movie. We need to see this where there's like the apocalypse hellscape and the Justice League fighting Superman that's succumbed to the dark side. And like Joker's in there and Deathstroke's in there. Like, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the Joker scene?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I never had a problem with Jared Leto. Like, I always thought he was a sufficiently creepy Joker. Like, I actually think he's the most. He's the Joker I would want to be with in the same room with the least of all of them. Like, he's the one who, to me, feels like the most like unsettling and like disturbing. like, and I never really understood the hate for his version in Suicide Squad. Like, I actually thought he was like pretty menacing in that. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was sufficiently creepy and unsettling in all the ways the Joker's unsettling, and Batman was like, I love when Batman's like, I will kill you. Like, it was like,
I think there was an F-bomb in there as well.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I dug it, man. Like, I was not that hot on his version of the Joker in Suicide Squad, although, and again, this too is another conversation, but there's also a movement now to release the director's cut of the original Suicide Squad movie, because there was, you talk about like seeing stuff in trailers that then never made it into the movie. Like, there was so much Joker stuff. Like, Joker has such a small role in that movie. I didn't love his take on the character. I wasn't so put off by it, and I would be curious to see more, and I would be open-minded to say like, well, okay, maybe in the context of these other Joker scenes, like maybe I would be more on board with it. So again, I didn't hate what we got in Suicide Squad. It wasn't my favorite. I very much liked this version, and it was great to have the two of them face off. Do you know they didn't actually film that together? Like, Affleck and Leto were not available on the same days, so they were not like physically together for that. But it works. It's pretty seamless.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was cool, and it's like another little wrinkle on their dynamic where they're allies, right? Like, in this hellscape, it's like, makes for, unlikely bedfellows. And so, and I thought that it kind of got at some interesting ideas, like when Joker digs him about, sending a boy to do a man's job. And, Bruce talks about Harley Quinn dying in his arms and all that stuff. Like, it was cool. I thought it was cool. And it was great to have the two of them face off. So,
dude, and I loved seeing Cyborg and Flash in future mode of them, like when you saw Flash with the helmet that retracts, and and Cyborg with the cannons coming up off his back and everything. Like, I just thought that Mad Maxy version of the Justice League was very cool. So that would be awesome to see that version in the next movie.
Yeah, for sure. And so again, I guess maybe if people are like, oh, like with the nightmare stuff, that's unresolved, but it's like, look, it's a possible future. And, if you never get another movie, then it didn't come to pass. Don't worry about it. But maybe, maybe we will. I mean, it would be cool. Like, even if they did, I've seen some people online saying like, oh, it'd be cool to do like an animated series set in that nightmare world. Or, it's like, there's a lot of potential. But yeah, it would be cool to see that further explored.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dude, this movie is like awesome. Like, dude, okay, I do want to get to like the future of the DC universe in a moment, but there's so much just teased up that like I feel like it saddens me that this apparently is like not going to go forward as of now. I mean, who knows? You're right. Success, winning changes everything, right? So like, who knows if the subscribers have doubled over the week, and maybe this changes everything. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. I know that there is that kind of like a bittersweet aspect to all of this on multiple levels, right? Like, bittersweet in the sense that, it's like, never thought, like watching it, it's like, you never thought you'd get to see this necessarily. But then there's also the side of like, why did everyone have to go through this whole exercise to get to this point? And then also too, bittersweet, watching it and being like, wow, this is awesome. And then, well, this is the end of the road, at least for now.
Yeah.
So, but all that being said, like I'm really grateful that we got to see this. And I also, and you tell me how you feel, right? As someone, we've been championing these movies for a while, right? We're not Johnny come latelys. Like we've we've been on board with this, and I definitely feel a sense of vindication, right? Like seeing this, it's like, yeah, like there was a reason why, people were pushing for this. So I'm grateful that we got it. Like I said in my little video reaction, it's like, I don't know Zack Snyder, but like I'm happy for him. Like cast, crew, like top to bottom, you never hear anyone say a negative thing about this man. And I think the fact that like Ben Affleck like showed up for reshoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and no, look, he didn't do it for free, but like, this is a big star. It's like, if he didn't want to do it, he wouldn't have done it.
I mean, he's not Batman anymore because he doesn't want to, you know what I mean? He's not doing the solo Batman movie anymore, you know? So yeah, you're right. That does speak volumes. You're right. And no one has anything bad to say about him. Like, I mean, again, I don't know him personally either, but he seems like a good dude from everything that we've heard. And he seems like someone who just has he seems like someone who just grew up loving comics and wanted to make something cool. You know what I mean? And like, for whatever reason, like, people were like, yeah, do it, but we're going to get in your way at the same time. Like, and like, I don't, you know, I feel bad for him that like he had to go through all this to get there, you know? But yeah.
And he has, you know, he treats these characters seriously, and he has a specific vision. And you know, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and going back to, you know, some of the fan reactions that have been driving me nuts a little bit. It's like, you know, and sort of like where I kind of fall on the fandom scale, because I know, you know, there are like real diehard fans. I don't know if I'm like so fully in that camp, but I feel like there, you know, there might be some like the true diehards who see this as the only like the only valid take on the characters. And obviously I don't feel that way. I feel like you can interpret these characters in multiple ways, but then there are others who just really don't seem to think that this is an acceptable way to present these characters. And I reject that. I mean, I just think this is a valid take on the characters, and within this universe he's created, I think he's made some really cool and interesting choices, and these movies stay with you in a way that a lot of other stuff doesn't.
Well, I will say that I think his vision for this time period right now is quote unquote the right take, because it is not the Marvel take, right? Like, we saw them try to take these characters and put them in like the Marvel blender through Joss Whedon, and like it doesn't like work. Like, it feels hokey and corny, and like these characters have been, specifically Batman and Superman, have been kind of like elevated through the past 30 years to be these like very serious, very epic characters. And like by proxy, that kind of permeates out to like Wonder Woman and Flash and Aquaman. And like, it just makes the DC universe like feel more like, important's not the right word, but more like serious. Like, it feels like more like mythic, right? Whereas like Marvel feels more relatable, and like I mean relatable in the sense of like humor and like the real world, where this feels like this like heightened version of like fantasy. Like characters are still relatable, but like the world itself is this like plus version of our world, right? Like, it's not the exact world we live in, but like that's fine. Like, that's like Lord of the Rings is like that, you know what I mean? Like Star Wars is like that. Like, and I think that is like a very valid and important take, because you don't just want to be copying another company. You know, you want to be forging your own path, and that's what makes you stand out and makes you stand different, and like that's what makes you unique. And like, I think that his take is so good. Like, I mean, especially seeing it through the conclusion like this, you know, maybe because the movies took so long between movies, maybe that's why there was this, you know, because if you didn't like the darkness of Batman versus Superman, like, you were gonna have to wait like 2 years or whatever. But like, I don't know.
I mean, all great points. And yeah, I don't have an answer on that. And, you know, I think I'm really proud of the episode that you and I did about, you know, justice for Zack Snyder's Superman. And, you know, I don't know that I've mentioned this on the air. I've definitely texted this to you, but I've had a number of people reach out to me about that episode and say that in some cases they were like, you guys turned me around on Zack Snyder's Superman. In other cases, there were people who were like, you know, I'm still not totally sold, but like, I'm going to rewatch them. Right. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so thank you again, you know, for being part of that and all the episodes you've done. But like, you know, that wasn't necessarily our objective when we set out. Like, we wanted to express why we love that, but it wasn't necessarily to try to like change somebody's mind. But, you know, it actually had that effect, which is great. And I think it, you know, just like for us, we appreciated those movies even more rewatching them. And so to whatever extent we were able to inspire someone to sit down and give it another shot, I'm proud of that. And I know I said this in that episode, but I'll say it again. I really think Man of Steel was ahead of its time. I really, only by a few years, but I think that the world, the more distrusting world and cynical world that it presented, I think sadly is kind of like the real world has caught up to that a little bit. But I think if someone who watched it in 2013 and was like, this isn't Christopher Reeve, I don't like this, I think if they were to come back and watch it now, I think they would appreciate it more. So, so you and I, like, very recently have watched all three of these movies. And I think you see like what this guy was doing. Like there was a plan here, and it was great to see it come together. And you know, even if this is the end, man, I'm glad we got this. And this is something that they already announced they're doing the Justice is Gray edition, the black and white version.
That's cool.
I'll watch that. You know,
I don't know, like, so I don't know if I would like that as much because like part of what I love about Zack Snyder is his visual like take, and like Laura had mentioned this when we were watching it too, is that this movie just looks pretty. Like the colors that like he uses a subdued color palette, but when the colors pop, they pop real well. You know what I mean? And like he just has like he has an eye for like crafting these worlds that are mostly CGI, right? Like most of it, like, but they don't feel like reality, but like I was saying, they feel like this heightened version of reality, like a comic book brought to life. And like I just think there's something visually so striking. Like he makes art, like because I remember I was talking about that last time, but Laura had said the same thing to me, like, and she didn't listen to my podcast talking about it, so she had no idea that I was saying that, but she was like, yeah, like she's like because she likes the guy that did Great Gatsby. What's that director's name?
Oh, Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah. Because she said his like in a similar way, like because he's got a very like unique vision, and she was like, Zack Snyder feels like that to me, like that it's like so like distinct and like you can tell it's him, you know. And that's what all artists want, you know. So yeah, man, and like when I said that the right interpretation of these characters for now, what I meant to say was all versions of these characters are valid, right? Like the George Reeves Superman, the Christopher Reeves Superman, the super bright, optimistic, like Brave and the Bold Batman, the Fleischer cartoon Superman, like all of it's valid. But what I meant to say was for now, like I think it's smart to have counter programming to Marvel is more what I was seeing that. Like while the Marvel universe is currently existing, and it is, like we have to acknowledge that, like, and they're great at what they do. Like, I'm not crapping on those movies. I'm saying they are awesome what they do, but they have their thing. And to try to ape their thing is only going to make the DC universe like the bastard second cousin. That's why, like, I think to not try to do them, to do themselves and be their own person and be their own person, their own identity and their own like visual and narrative thrust is really important to separate it out, you know?
I couldn't agree more. You know, and we've talked about the Marvel movies before. I've seen them all, and I've enjoyed virtually all of them. They don't often stick with me the way these movies do, and in part that's because my heart is with DC and with Superman, and I recognize that. Yeah. That's a big factor here. I recognize, you know, the craftsmanship in the Marvel movies. I recognize that they're fun. Again, I enjoy them. But yeah, they don't necessarily stick with me. And I agree with you 100%. It's like, you know, to quote the late Wayne Gretzky's father, who sadly recently passed away, but he taught his son, and I learned this from listening to a Kevin Smith podcast years ago because he went on a whole Gretzky kick. But, you know, Gretzky Sr. taught him, like, don't skate to where the puck is, skate where it's going to be. Right. So it's like if DC Warner Brothers is forever trying to like ape, like you said, what Marvel is doing, that's not the way, like to quote the Mandalorian, but like, that's not the path forward here. So yeah, I think kind of, you know, carving out their own, you know, their own take on these characters is the way to go. And I too, let me clarify, because when I like mentioned the Christopher Reeve movies, I love the Christopher Reeve take on the character, his performance as Superman. Clark, I know we talked about that in
love the first one. Love the first movie. Love
the first movie. But I guess the reason, and maybe why I have a tone when I mention Christopher Reeve, is I just feel that when people are so beholden to that version of the character that they're unwilling to accept an alternate take like we've had in these recent years, that's where I start to get a little frustrated, because it's like, these can all exist. You can enjoy all of them. And just because something doesn't match, you know, what the previous iteration of that, like, it's okay.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because Rob Liefeld's podcast, when he was talking about these movies, he had mentioned that, I think he was talking about his kids watched these movies when they were coming out. And like, basically, like he was saying to that generation, Henry Cavill is Superman. Like to like the generation that was like between like 9 and 15 when Man of Steel came out, like they've grown up with him in these movies, and that is Superman to them. And it was funny because that is so valid, because my dad, right, when the Christopher Reeve movie came out, he was out of college. He was out of college. Like the Superman he grew up with was George Reeves. And so when the Christopher Reeve movie came out, my dad didn't like it. I mean, he liked the movie because it was Superman, but like he thought Christopher Reeve was too much of a pretty boy. He thought Christopher Reeve wasn't tough enough. You know, like it didn't jive with the George Reeve version. And like it's funny how like time goes on. I just think there's just such a gap between Christopher Reeve and anything else. And like when they try to do something else at first, they just try to mimic him with the Superman Returns. So like maybe that's where that kind of like sort of like anchor to that version of is in pop culture. But like I think now though, like I mean, I told you when I go to Comic-Cons, like even over these past few years, like when I first started, like very few people would get Superman commissions or talk to me about Superman, and now he's a lot of people's favorite character that I interact with, you know. So like I do think these movies, I mean, we might not notice it a lot because when on social media we have very like myopic circles, you know, like of like people we know or people our age, you know, like, and like, but like I think if you kind of go out into the population, like I think these movies did hit a quarter of people. I really do.
That's a good point. That is a good point. And I certainly hope that's the case. And I think, yeah, like you said, I mean, the fact that you're seeing that, kind of, play out at the conventions, at least, I think that's really cool. And I hope that's the case, yeah, I know it's social media, I think can be, deceptive / toxic, and there's I just to touch on this because, obviously the fact that we got the Snyder Cut was really born out of this fan movement. And, I think that the relentlessness and the seeming like omnipresence of this fan movement, I think maybe that's what motivates some of the negativity, some of the pushback from certain people, even in like in my circle. And let me just say this, when it comes to fandom, like I'm never for any, toxicity, right? And I think you're going to find that sadly in any fandom. I did and do follow the main Release the Snyder Cut Twitter account. And I don't want to paint with a broad stroke. I mean, again, there are always going to be exceptions, but at least from the leaders in this movement, what I saw was a lot of encouraging people to be positive, to talk about why they were excited about the Snyder Cut, to really focus on that. I saw specific examples where they were like really trying to say to people like, hey, explain why you're excited about this. Tell HBO and AT&T and, like why you want to see this, right? And they raised a ton of money for suicide prevention, in honor of the Snyder's late daughter. So, I think there was a lot of positivity. Where there's toxicity, no, that's not a positive thing. I don't support that. But, overall, I guess I do want to commend the fans, especially the leaders and the positive forces within the fan movement, who made this happen. I'm grateful that we got this movie. What else did you want to say before how long do you think we've been going for? Or I don't know if you can see a time.
Well, I've been looking at the clock. So we've been going for like just over 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Only we've been going for half the length of the Snyder Cut. Not bad. Not bad.
I've been waiting like 2 years to talk to you about it. So if you keep going, I'm still with you.
Yeah, no, we don't. But what else did you want to talk about that we haven't gotten to?
I want to talk about the future of the DC universe. Like the one that pops to my head first off, right, is because Flash is like, of the characters in these movies, he's my second favorite character, and next to Superman. And between him and Green Lantern, those are like my three favorite DC characters. So like, I know the Flash movie was long in development, right? And like directors were coming and going, and I wonder if a lot of that had to do, because at one point Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison were writing the script themselves.
Yeah.
And I wonder if a lot of that had to do with like Ezra Miller was like, the character I signed up for, this is not, like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the one that we shot originally, and then now we changed it completely. Like it's an embarrassment what they did to the Flash in the Justice League version, man. Like, and then they had the comedy directors come on at one point. Remember, like, because Rick Famuyiwa was gonna do it. And I was super excited for that because he did that movie Dope, and I thought that was great. And he cast Iris West, and I think he cast the dad, Billy Crudup. I think that was all him. And then maybe that was Joss Whedon, or not Joss Whedon. Get the names confused. Maybe that was Zack Snyder. I don't know, but like, but I know that he cast Iris though. I'm pretty sure. Maybe that was Zack. I'm not sure, but I know that he left the movie like kind of right when they were like in the midst of filming it, like over creative differences. And so like I wonder if that was like the writing on the wall then, where the studio was like, no, we need to make this funnier. We can't do a serious movie. We can't like, and I wonder if that was permeating out into the other movies. And then they got those two comedy directors, and then that's when they left over creative differences, and that's when Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison were like, we're writing the script ourselves. And I wonder if it was this tension between, specifically with that character of like the actor being like, I wanted to do this more serious version that was beholden to Zack, and the studio being like, no, man, you got to be like our Spider-Man again, chasing the Marvel like tail, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, I just seeing the whole picture now, like it really feels like that might be the case. And it makes me wonder if we're ever going to see that Flash movie.
I mean, allegedly they are finally moving forward. I mean, apparently they've got Michael Keaton on board to come back as Batman, and Affleck to do a final swan song as his version of the character. Given how
Supergirl, did they cast Supergirl in it too? Like I heard that Supergirl was cast.
They did cast a Supergirl. See, I can't remember offhand if it was for Flashpoint or just for like a DC movie moving forward. I'm not positive. It might be for Flashpoint.
I think it was for Flashpoint. I was doing another podcast, Crashing Game Night. Shout out to those guys. But then they were talking about on the episode I was on, and I believe it was for the Flash. Again, I don't follow the news on this stuff super tightly, so I'm just basically going what they told me. But yeah, it sounded like it was for Flash. So
gotcha.
Who knows? Like, let's see.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. This thing has had so many. I don't think they ever actually filmed anything. I think like it's just never gotten to that point. Like they've kept having people, fall out. So, yeah. But there have been so many of these like, aborted attempts that it's like, I'll believe it when I see it. But I think, what your speculation actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, if that is the case, I would totally get that, right? Like he signed on to like Snyder sold him on a specific vision of the character, right? That's what he signed on to play. That's what he filmed originally. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he had to come back.
That's what the original director that they had on for so long. And remember, he was gonna make like a Flash Cyborg, like almost team up movie with.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that is part of the reason that there's tension between the original intent for the character, what Ezra Miller wants to do with the character versus what the direction the studio wanted to go in after Justice League. I don't know. I mean, I hope it happens. I hope it reflects the Snyder cut version of Barry for sure. I really do actually like the Ezra Miller Flash. So
I like the Snyder cut version. I like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the thing that breaks my heart the most is that I think the chances of more Henry Cavill as Superman, I feel like it's a real becoming an even slimmer prospect.
But dude, he still wants to do it. Like, have you ever seen like interviews with him or anything talking? Like, he named his dog Cal. Like, He's a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs because he thinks Superman would be a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, he's like so down to play this character, and that's so rare. Like Chris Evans, dude, like has no respect for Captain America. Like, you hear interviews with him, he's like, it's kid stuff. Like he does not care about this. You know what I mean? Like. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know the guy personally, but like I've read interviews with him where like he seems dismissive, right?
Gotcha.
And like Henry Cavill in every interview, you look at social media, everything, he just seems so like a nerd at heart that just wants to be Superman, and like he's so good at it, and he looks so good in the suit, like in the black suit, the red suit, the blue suit, whatever suit, like he just strikes a commanding like silhouette as Superman, and I don't get why they don't want to keep going forward with him. Like he's great.
I know. Well, to that point, I mean, he said in interviews that Superman for Tomorrow is his favorite comic book story. And like, I take him I take him at his word, because that's not like the most known Superman story. So like for him to call that out, I feel like that's pretty specific. It's not like he said, I don't know.
Dude, I'll do you one crazier. I remember this was an interview. I think it was on a talk show when he was promoting Batman. I think it was for Batman vs. Superman. I mean, it might have been from Man of Steel, but like someone asked him about like the comics, and he started like listing off artists, and not Jim Lee. He was like, yeah, I really like Kenneth Rocafort. Like who the hell would know that unless you like, you know, comics, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like it's just, it's interesting to me that he's so down and so into it, where like a lot of these actors don't seem to share that like enthusiasm. I mean, dude, the DC actors in general seem to be really into it. Like Jason Momoa seems to be like into being Aquaman. Gal Gadot seems into being Wonder Woman. Like you don't really seem to get that enthusiasm publicly from the, like, you know, like Robert Downey Jr. per se. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does, but like he doesn't seem to be like, you know, like as upfront about it, you know?
Oh man, I think there's something. Yeah. So, and again, it's like, right, who knows for sure what's in anybody's head, right? Like Chris Evans might be a diehard Cap fan and it just doesn't come off. And maybe these people, maybe like, you know, the DC actors are just really great actors and they come off great in these interviews. But I think there might be something to what you're saying, because I feel like with a lot of the Marvel actors, I think they like being in Marvel movies. I think they really like being in Marvel movies. But I feel like with the DC actors, yeah, there does seem to be more of an attachment to the characters that they're playing. Yeah, I mean, I know. I think there might be, you know, there might be a little something to that. And yeah, for Cavill, I mean, you know, for him to call out these storylines and artists that are kind of like deep cuts. And he said in interviews like relatively recently that he feels like there's still a lot of justice to be done for Superman. Like he wants to, you know, kind of reflect more of the comics in the movies. Like he's not, I agree. Like he doesn't seem to want to be done. And I don't want it to be done. I mean, like I don't
either. He's so good. Like he's so good. Like they struck gold with him, because like he's serious and tough, but like he still looks like the Superman in your head that you like imagine. Like he like yeah, man. I don't know. Like they really shouldn't like pull the eject cord on him, because he's, you know, I think he's got at least another trilogy left in him. If I'm going to be honest with you, like I mean, I guess it depends like how he ages. You know, if he like gets injured or whatever and can't like maintain the size or whatever. But you know,
well, he can always borrow the padding from the Superman and Lois costume. It'll be all right.
Well, I mean, what I mean when I said, Jesus,
you know, for anyone who's listened, for anyone who like listens to all these episodes, they're probably like, why is Anthony like always talking about the padding?
Yeah. No, I mean, the padding's bad in that suit, but like, you know, it's noticeable in the Superman Lois show. Not Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill, I don't think has any pads in his suit. Like, but you see him without a shirt in this. He is sufficiently ripped. Like he is probably the most in shape human being on earth. But
I watched on like he did like a Men's Health thing, like where he shows his workout. And there's this like shoulder blaster that he does, and I've done it a few times. It's not as hard, and it's not even the amount of weight. Like it's like 20-pound dumbbells, but it's the volume of reps and the different types of workout that you do with it. It's you know, but it was interesting. But anyway, go ahead. So what were you gonna say?
I totally forgot. I got down the rabbit hole. I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry. No, just about, you know, that you think like he could have another trilogy in him.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, yeah, what I was saying was with him getting injured, like I know the other actors for these superhero movies, like Chris Evans, for example, they talk about the toll it takes on your body to like maintain that like level of like rippedness and size, which like it's not easy. You know, I mean, humans aren't designed to look like that. So like to maintain that for years and years and years definitely takes a toll. So that's more what I was referring to.
Yeah.
With like, yeah.
No, I know for sure. But that's the thing, like with Superman, you know, you could, even if, not that he would necessarily look this old, but you could make him look older and do like a Kingdom Come type thing. Like there's some, you know, there are a lot of directions that they could go. And I know, man, I would love to get, even if it's just one more solo outing. 'Cause it's like, it's crazy to think. I mean, you know, since 2013, like he's been Superman, yet he's only had one solo movie, you know, and obviously, co-lead on Batman v Superman, and then a relatively small role in Justice League. It's like we haven't seen, you know, that much of him, and certainly in a solo adventure in a long time. So, and it's like where this movie leaves off with the pregnancy. It's like, man, I would love to see the next chapter and more of him in the black costume.
I know. Okay, here's a question: would you rather Zack, if Zack was going to come back, would you rather him do Man of Steel 2, or would you rather him do the Justice League Part 2 and Part 3?
If I had to choose, as sad as I would be to not see the Justice League arc reach its conclusion, Man of Steel 2. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, after what you told me about what he had planned, I think I would, like, perfect world, Zack would do Justice League 2 and 3, and then they get an equally talented director to handle Man of Steel 2. But like, I definitely want Man of Steel 2 for sure. Yeah. But like, if I could only get one, oh man, it's so tough. Because like, if I could only get one, probably Man of Steel 2, just I don't know though, that Justice League, seeing all the Justice League, seeing everyone come back. Like, I mean, we're assuming Ben Affleck's back and Gal Gadot and like all the whole crew's coming back, then like, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough one.
And you know, and I feel like the possibility of these people coming back is like not that crazy. I mean, especially if it's, I mean, if the money's there, and also if it's like you were saying before, you know, if it's done as an HBO Max like mini series or something, you know, it's not a 22 episode season of a show. I mean, I think it's relatively doable to get these people. And you know, if it is Justice League and it's an ensemble piece, it's like you can probably block it out where you don't need Affleck for that much, right?
Yeah.
I guess ideal scenario would be Snyder, you know, continues with Justice League. You know, maybe it does take the form of miniseries. And I think that, you know, either one miniseries or two or whatever. And I think that would be awesome. Maybe since, you know, he spent a lot of time, rightfully so, right, introducing all of these Justice League characters, you know, maybe Superman could get a little bit more of the focus in the next one, you know, now he's been back, right? Yeah. So I think maybe that would be my ideal version where like Man of Steel is sort of woven into, you know, Man of Steel 2 is like woven into the future Justice League. That would be great. I would love to see the storyline continue, but with a little bit more of an emphasis on Clark.
Yeah, totally. I mean, dude, I would love to see Man of Steel 2 just in general, like him fighting like Brainiac or something, like something that doesn't even have to do with Justice League, just like a Superman movie would be awesome. You know, I don't know. I also really want that Green Lantern movie that was supposedly. Do you remember that original slate of movies that had like the Cyborg movie and everything? In 2020, a Green Lantern movie was supposed to be coming out, and like, I'm so disheartened with that because like we got 2 brief glimpses of Green Lanterns in this movie, and like they both excited me when I saw them. I was like, yeah, like dude, the part when you saw the dead Green Lantern, I had to rewind it because I'm like, is that Hal? Is that Hal? And like, but it was just some alien Green Lantern. So, but yeah, man, they gotta do Green Lantern justice, man. They have to.
Well, you know, speaking about, like you said, the future of the DC on film, I mean, you know, HBO Max is planning a television series. I know, you know, Jeff Johns is one of the producers, and, you know.
I mean, I would be excited for that if any of the Green Lanterns I cared about were in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like no John, no Kyle, no Hal. It's like, those are my 3 favorite Green Lanterns, and like none of the 3 of them are in it. And it's like,
is there no John Stewart?
No, no, it's Guy Alan Scott for some reason, which doesn't make any sense because he's not part of the Green Lantern Corps. Like, I don't even know why he's there.
Right.
I think Jessica Cruz is in it, and possibly Simon Baz. Okay. I'm not sure about that. So it's like the 2 newer ones, and then Guy Gardner. Which, I mean, Simon and Jessica, they're pretty cool characters. Like, I've worked on them. Like, I do think they're cool characters, and I shouldn't say like I don't. Green Lanterns I care about, but like I do actually care about them. Like, I think they're good characters, but like they're not like the anchor characters. You know, like to me, like the anchor characters are John, Kyle, and Hal, and like they don't have any of them in it. It bums me out. You know.
I know. Yeah, you know very curious where they'll go, you know, with the movies in particular. You know, I know now they're embracing the multiverse concept, and I know, you know, we'll see that play out in Flash. It's, you know, it's sad because it's like with the Marvel movies, like they're going to the multiverse because they can, right? Like they did so well, and they reacquired the rights to all of their characters, and it's like now they can, you know, they can play around and they can have all the different versions of Spider-Man in a movie, and it's, you know, whereas with DC, I feel like they're like, you know, it's like they don't have now a cohesive vision for all of these movies. And so like, you know, and I know we've talked about this
No.
before, but it's just like, I feel like it's a mess. And I feel like they're looking at multiverse as like, okay, this is a way to just like have a simple,
crutch. Yeah.
simple explanation for everything.
It almost feels like a crutch. And like that's the thing. Like, I'm not really even excited really for the Flash movie. Cause like the idea of him universe hopping and not just getting like a good Flash origin movie, like, doesn't really excite me that much. Like, I don't really care about seeing Michael Keaton come back as Batman. I mean, I know that might be sacrilege. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I love that take. I love those movies. But like, I'd rather just see like a good Flash movie, like that him and Iris scene at the beginning. Like, I would want more of that. Like, I don't need to see like him go hang out with like super old Michael Keaton at this point as Batman. Like, it's just, I don't know.
You know what I would love to see in a Flash movie? I would love, I wouldn't mind seeing the origin, and that's funny. Like for this Barry Allen, we didn't see the origin story, right?
Yeah.
So it would be cool to see that. I would love to see like Rogue War. I would love to see Barry up against like a team of rogues, because, you know, the Flash TV series, which I've given up on, but I watched 6.5 seasons. I got pretty far, but you know, we've seen like a lot of the big villains, like the Reverse Flash and Zoom. Like we've gotten a lot of that. And they've done a lot of the rogues, but one of my disappointments, and I assume this is like a budget thing, but rarely do you see the rogues team up. And unless I'm forgetting, we've never seen like all of them team up. And I think that would be like a really fun Flash movie.
Totally, because that would like on their own, the rogues wouldn't really pose that much of a threat, but dealing with all of them at the same time, that's where like you tap into like what makes his powers unique and what makes his powers like vital, you know? And when I say origin story, I don't necessarily mean like seeing him get hit with the lightning bolt or anything. I just mean like establish his world, establish him like starting work at the crime lab, establish his relationship with Iris, establish like maybe there's Wally West like shows up, you know what I mean? Like just like building out his world like is more like what I would want to see, as opposed to him like time hopping to Gotham to the 80s. You know what I mean? Like it's just not, I don't know. Like, I could be wrong. I could be eating my words. It could be the best movie ever made, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You know, again, I think Wonder Woman now, which was one of their stable properties, right? I think that's in flux now, because the reaction to 1984 was not great. I don't think they got the response they were looking for. So, what form Wonder Woman 3 takes. I know they've announced they're doing it and Patty Jenkins is coming back. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So I didn't see Wonder Woman 84. Was it like that it was more comedic and it wasn't as like serious? Like what was the difference between like this and...
It wasn't, I mean, there are numerous, honestly, the villain I thought was a mess and was kind of hard to track and was very over the top.
Okay. The Cheetah?
No, Maxwell Lord. Cheetah 2 was visually not that impressive. It was not great. And the larger issue I had with 84, and this is really not a spoiler, but the idea that Wonder Woman, that Diana is like so hung up on Steve decades later that she's like so fully withdrawn from the world. It didn't, as much as I understand that she loved him and she misses him, I get that and I appreciate that. And it's beautiful and tragic, but the idea that this strong woman has so closed herself off, even to friendships, for 70 years, I don't know. It didn't quite match my version of the character. I won't spoil this, but the way that Steve comes back is really problematic, and I can't believe that nobody caught this. So there's a little weird thing there. And then, the villains, Maxwell Lord and Cheetah, were just, I was really not impressed. There are some cool sequences, and there's visually, there's the big opening sequence on Themyscira in the past. That's really cool. There's the fireworks scene, which you'll know when you see it. That I think visually is a really beautiful scene. There's some good stuff in there, but it just, and it's also, it's funny, man. It's like 4 hours of Snyder Cut felt a lot faster than 2+ hours of that. I'll tell you that much. Cause I remember like Steph and I watched it on Christmas when it came out. And I remember like we paused it to get a snack or something, like, like an hour in or less. And it was like, oh my God, like I can't believe we have this much left, of this thing. Yeah. So, for anyone who enjoyed it, right on, I'm glad. I did not care for it.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where Laura was super excited to see it. And then, I mean, Christmas Day, we just didn't have time because we had family over and stuff. And then like, by the time we had time to watch it, we had heard from so many people that it was terrible that Laura had like lost all interest in it. And, you know, we just never, and by the time like we were like, oh, we should watch it, like it wasn't on HBO Max anymore. So hopefully it'll come on now that I'm a subscriber. Hopefully it'll come on at some point and we can watch it.
It'll come back. So, you know, what HBO is doing for the entire 2021 is, you know, they're releasing their movies in theaters and on HBO Max at the same time. And it's on HBO Max for a month. Mm-hmm. And then it leaves HBO Max and it enters like the traditional home video life cycle where, you know, you can buy it or rent it, right? Like on iTunes and Amazon store, and then it'll eventually make its way back to HBO Max. So you'll get to see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you with Snyder Cut. So we talked about like rewatching it. So like I'll definitely rewatch it with Steph, and I'll watch the Justice's Gray edition when it comes out. I already lined up my buddy Justin DeVoe. He was on we did the Final Night episode.
Oh yeah. It's Lobo, right?
All right, real life Lobo. Yeah. And he and I, we were messaging about Snyder Cut, and I was like, when the black and white version comes out, like, you want to come on and talk about that? He was like, yeah. He's like, I'm so excited. He's like, I'll talk about what toothpaste Superman uses. I don't care. Like, I just want to do it. I'm like, all right, we'll do it. It'll be fun.
Nice.
So I'll watch that, you know, and I'll see whatever new thoughts I have by that point. I don't know. If and when there's a theatrical release of the Snyder Cut, if and when, and assuming, you know, we're past pandemic and it's safe to go into, like, would you go see it in theaters?
I don't know. I would if like my dad really wanted to go with me or something. Like I don't think I would go on my own. Cause like, dude, 4 hours, especially in a theater, like to not pee and stuff, like it's a lot. That's a lot. But yeah, if I had family or friends that really wanted to see it and I hadn't seen it in a while, I'd probably be down for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually though, on the note of the bathroom break, the theatrical, because I know Snyder wants to do a theatrical version, and for if and when that happens, he did have Junkie XL compose like a 10 or 15 minute musical interlude. So there is an intermission. Although I don't know, you don't want to miss the music. You might just sit there and hold it. That's the thing. There are two things that would keep me from going to see it on the big screen. Possibly. One is the duration. Like, again, it doesn't feel like 4 hours, but again, I was able to get up every hour, you know.
Mentally, it doesn't feel like 4 hours, but physically. Like when you stand up after it, you're like, oh my God, I haven't moved in 4 hours. Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, look, maybe if it were Alamo Drafthouse, if it survives, geez.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where
is ours still hanging in?
I don't know, TBD. Because I know, because they announced that, you know, Alamo Drafthouse, they're filing for bankruptcy, but like they're reorganizing. It's not going away, but they announced that two of the locations, like in Austin, like their flagship Austin location and one other one, are closing permanently, and certain others will, but they didn't announce which one. So we have our local one, you know, in Yonkers, and I hope it sticks around. But, you know, they're strict with talking and everything. My concern, and I guess this isn't a huge deal because I will have already seen the movie, but like, you know, and right, we love comics fans, right? But like, I'd be a little wary of seeing it in a theater full of people. Like, I don't need people cheering like all the time, like over dialogue and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe it would be, at the same time, maybe it would be fun to kind of have that communal, you know, viewing experience.
Yeah. But at that point, most people will have seen it though, so you might not even get that like I mean, to me, a cheering moment is when Superman stops the axe. Like that's like, it had me just like so like amped. Like, yeah.
I know. Can we just Henry? I can't let go of this moment. Even just Henry Cavill's line reading, his delivery, because he could have said like, not impressed.
Yeah.
No, there was that flair to it where it's just like, not impressed.
Yeah.
I
so
love
good.
that moment.
Yeah.
It's
so
and the
good.
kick.
So
I know I said this already, but the kick.
The kick is so good. So good, dude.
It was great. All right, now for real, is there anything else that you want to say, or shall we wrap this up?
I think we pretty much hit everything, man. Like, I hope you had fun talking about it. I know I did. So.
Oh man. 7
hours of my day was devoted to the Snyder Cut. So.
I know. I mean, I at least had a few days to kind of decompress, but I know you went straight from, from watching to doing this. So I appreciate it. I mean, again, you're our most frequent guest. I tallied it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? More than Sean. More than Sean Hendrick.
Well, within Digging for Kryptonite, as far as as far as all of my podcasts together, yeah, that I don't know. I'd have to do some math on that, but definitely on Digging for Kryptonite, you're up there. And I always love doing these, and especially this episode, like it was, as we talked about when we talked about Snyder previously, thankfully now I feel like the pendulum has swung a bit, but I feel like for a while there's so much hate on these movies, and so to find a kindred spirit who was like, no, like, these are great. I mean, I remember like the first time we talked about what a relief,
Yeah.
And so to, kind of have that episode and speculate about what a Snyder cut might be like, and to finally get to this point and to be able to talk about it. No, this really was a blast. So I thank you. As always a pleasure. I look forward to your future appearances. And you were inspired by the Snyder cut, and you drew a black suit Superman piece that was gorgeous. And so let me say to anyone, you should be following Ken on social media anyway. But if you're not, or if you follow, but maybe you haven't checked in a while, go check out this sketch on Twitter and Instagram. What are the handles again?
Twitter is @VK Marion and Instagram's @V Ken Marion.
So make sure that you follow Ken, and in particular, check out that Black Suit Superman sketch, because that was real nice, man. That came out
thanks,
great.
Man. Thank you.
Because you sent me like when you first started, and then I saw the finished piece, and it was like, so good.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's so good.
Yeah, I was so excited about the black suit. And like it didn't disappoint at all. It was so good. I told you that those McFarlane figures came out, and I was like, ooh, this is tempting. Kind of want to get this one. Yeah.
I know. Well, I'd mentioned this to you, I think off mic another time, but the DC Universe app, they gave subscribers an early access to order a new set of Funko Pops based on the Snyder cut, and it includes the black suit Superman. I didn't go for it just because I've kind of put the Pops on pause a little bit, but that was I know there's there's a lot of cool stuff that's really tempting.
I know, dude. I know. So much cool shit to buy. It's like, and this is just kind of like reigniting my passion now for the DC extended universe. I'm like, oh man, I just want to get this stuff. So, dude, I gotta make sure I got the space though. That's the thing. I got to keep all my stuff in my office here. Can't have any figures migrating out into the living room. So.
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to Chris Wilcock, as Chris always says, it's like, the money is a factor too, right? But you'll make it work however you need to. Space, you can't create space. That's the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but listen, man, thank you so much. This really was fun, man. I had a really good time.
Yeah, dude, I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me back.
My pleasure. Thank you to everyone who listened or watched. I hope this was fun. I hope that, if you enjoyed the Snyder cut, that this was a fun little victory lap, kind of reliving some of the great moments. And, maybe if you were kind of on the fence about the Snyder cut, I don't know, maybe this might have turned you around a little bit. I don't know if you hated the Snyder cut. I don't know. I don't know how much you would have liked this podcast.
If you hated the Snyder cut, but I hope you at least liked listening to us talk about it, So there's that,
Yeah, I like that. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Because I've listened to podcasts where I totally disagree with the opinions that's being said, but I still enjoy the podcast. So.
Right on. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm sure there are some folks who fall into that category. And, look, in the interest of diplomacy, right, and being welcoming, it's like, if you didn't enjoy it, it's okay. Don't sweat it. But thank you for checking out this podcast either way. Make sure you keep tuning in. April is a big month on the show. You're actually going to be hearing from Ken again in, I think, a few days. So for our Mark Waid episode, for our little wraparound segment. So April's a huge month. We're going to be talking about the Superman origins. So much great stuff coming up. Thank you, Ken. Thank you to everyone who has listened or watched. Keep tuning in. And until then, remember, it's about what you do. It's about action. Digging for Kryptonite is a Flat Squirrel production. Art by Greg Schiegel, music by Basic Printer. If you like what you heard, be sure to listen to My Comic Shop History, available on most major podcast platforms. Sign up for exclusive additional content, including the Digging for Kryptonite companion podcast, at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato, and watch my documentary film, My Comic Shop Country, out now on Apple TV and Amazon.